So
This
let's get
conference
started.
will now be recorded.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so that's awesome. So so let's get started. So before we getting started, so let me tell you the three awesome things that you're going to take away from this particular demo session. Only if you want to take away these three things, you make sure that pretty much simple. You just need to spend your valuable 2 hours with me. Obviously, to make your weekend is really awesome. Okay, I'm going to make your weekend really awesome only if you stay till the end of this particular program. So what do you mean by these two things? Three things that I'm talking about. So one is, let's say here we're going to talk about the future of AI, and so I'm going to help you understand how does your future is going to look like for the next 10 years, and what does AI is going to offer for you. Okay, so then comes we're going to give up a free ebooks only if you stay till end of this particular program. You can download that at the end of the program. And second stuff, we have arranged an awesome demo on top of one of our cloud platforms, so on AWS. So you can able to enjoy that only if you stay till end of this particular program. Second stuff, so I'm going to talk about a lot of numbers here. So what does the AI job looks like, and what's existing market is going to look like. So specifically, so we'll be talking about the MLOps, what we call it as machine learning operations, and we will be also talking about LLMOps. Okay, you know what is LLMs are? Large language models. The world is talking about GPTs, Chat GPT, GPT-3, GPT-4, LLMs, Llama, Plum, lot of AIs, right? So here in this 2 hours, we're going to understand how AI lives in production, how you make AI to get into the production, or how to make your ML models to get into the production. So what it takes for that. So we're going to have a discussion about that. Okay, do you want to learn this end to end? Make sure you stay till the end of this particular program. Okay, so before we getting started, I want to understand my dear audience. I know that where you guys are coming from. I just want to understand what kind of skill sets that you hold. Okay, just use this chat window, just mention what kind of a job that you're working. So in case if you're a data scientist, just mention you're a data scientist. You might be a data engineer, you might be a software engineer, you might be a DevOps professional, you might be a student. Please do mention who you are. You might be a project manager, right? So just mention who you are in a chat window. Here we go, like a lot of messages coming to the picture. I can see we do have data scientist, we do have a software developer, we do have senior quality execution tech project manager, we do have product managers, data scientists and AI. Okay, so web developers, perfect, middleware administrators, that's awesome. DevOps professionals, we do have consultant, we do have DevOps engineers, Kubernetes engineers, that's awesome. So we have Surendra, data scientist, that's awesome. Please do use your chat window, just mention who you are, and let's get started quickly, okay, without wasting much of a time. Okay, awesome. So please do describe who you are. So let's get started right now. So this session is going to be for next 2 hours. So let's get started right now. Perfect. So yeah, a quick introduction about your trainer. That me. Let me just quickly turn on my camera. I believe I'm visible for you folks. Hey folks, I guess, yeah, you might be able to see me. Yeah, this is Sharad. I'll be your host for the next 2 hours. Okay, I'm going to provide a lot of content for the next 2 hours. So please make sure you stay till the end of this particular program. So personally, what I've done, so I'm a founder and CEO of this organization called Cyton Technologies. I help people like you to become an expert in AI, basically. So anything related to the cloud, let's consider that it can be AWS or Azure, GCP, whatever, right? Whatever the cloud it is. So do you want to become an expert in AI, the MLOps person, a data scientist? So I have helped more than 5,000 plus people to achieve their goals already. Yep, here we go. I will be your host for the next 2 hours. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my camera. Otherwise, you'll be having my screen feed towards, let's say, the right side. So it might interrupt you. So I'm going to quickly, let me see how I can turn off this camera. I don't know, something just happened. One second. Yeah, that's perfect. So let's get started. 1 second, folks. Just give me a sec. So let's get started. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so now I have turned off my camera. So let's get started without wasting much of a time. Okay, so what are we going to discuss in this next 2 hours. Okay, these are the things, this will be the highlights of our demo session. So we'll be diving deep into understanding what is exactly MLOps and what it takes to master MLOps and what does a job opportunities looks like in MLOps. Okay, let's get started with this beautiful slide. Okay, here we go. I just want you to check this particular slide. Okay, I just want this session to be more interactive. So go ahead, you to check this particular screen, and I just want you to describe what you can find in this particular program what you can able to find in this particular slide. Okay, just describe what is this picture about, what kind of a things that you can able to see in this particular picture. So just go ahead and describe this in your chat window, just use it. So what you can able to find in this particular picture. So here we have Amini says it's a dark park, and I can see Indra says it's a park. Mandeep says it's pets and owners in a park. Uday says it is AI generated. Okay, that's awesome, Uday. So I mean, it's a beautiful description that you get. No, this image is not going to be AI generated. I just want to start from a scratch. So this is not AI generated anyway. So thank you so much for your answer. But anyway, so let's try to understand what is this picture is about first of all. So obviously you can able to describe, obviously this is a picture of a park, right? And you could able to describe a lot of different objects from this particular picture. So I mean, as a human being, you can able to describe there's a lot of people inside. There's a men and there's a women, and even there are dogs in this particular picture. I mean, even there are different breeds of dogs, not just one breed of dog. And you can see a dog which is carrying a ball in his mouth. That's awesome. And you can see a path where you can able to walk, and there's a grass where you can spend a time with your pets, right? So that's awesome description. That's awesome. But my question is not exactly this. Okay, so I want to ask this question in a different way. So my question is this: how do you know this is a picture of a park? That's what I want to ask it, right? How do you know this is a picture of a dog? Why can't this be a cat? Or how do you know this is a picture of let's say the trees? Why can't this be a plant? Or maybe how do you know this is a picture of a man? Who taught you these things? Who taught you like recognizing, okay, this is a dog or this is a park, right? So let's try to put it in a next level. Okay, I want to go ahead and I want to display the same exact picture to this newborn baby. Okay, I will go ahead and I will display the same exact picture to this newborn baby. So do you think the baby could able to recognize the same exact things, right, that you have recognized right now? So probably not, right? So baby doesn't know anything else apart from, let's say, a newborn baby could able to recognize his mother and father, but apart from that a baby doesn't know anything else, right? So what if I, let's say, if I go ahead one step ahead, and let's say I'm going to display the same exact picture to this let's say maybe a grown-up person. So now this particular baby could able to recognize, let's say, obviously this is a picture of a park, this is a dog, this is a grass. He can able to recognize it, right? So what I'm trying to point out, so is that if this particular slide is there, somehow it is related to what we are discussing? Definitely yes. So what we are talking about today as an AI, here we go. Neeraj has given a good description. He says, by trained, I mean, we have been trained with this data by our brain. That's a good description. That's awesome. So what we are talking about as AI today, right? So we are the best examples. We are the examples of AI at the end of the day, right? So consider that we are a biological machines. Consider a newborn baby who has born with an empty brain. I mean, he has no data in it. So what happens? Like he will, from the time of birth, he will be start learning different things. He will start learning how to recognize his mother and father, blah blah blah. He will start learning how to walk, recognizing peoples, his relatives and friends. So when then he goes to the school, he will be learning mathematics, physics, science, blah blah blah. Then he will be learning data science like you. He'll be learning MLOps and AI to get into the job and make their life easier and happier and more better. I mean, so what I'm trying to say that we are the best examples of AI today. So consider that if I want to point out this entire growth cycle of a human being as a graph, the knowledge that we learn will exponentially grow up. Each and every day we learn something, we eventually get better. And let's say based on this such kind of a knowledge that you have learned today, you could able to make a decisions, you could able to make a predictions for your own future. So one of a good thing that you have done is you made a decision to join this demo session, so to spend your valuable 2 hours with me, so believing that you're going to gain something out of MLOps, where you can be part of AI industry for next couple of decades, right? So that's awesome. So this, we are the best examples of what we are talking about AI today. And today, what we are trying to do, we are trying to make this dumb machines as AI. I mean, we want to teach whatever we have learned, and we want to teach the same exact things to this machine, so machines can able to make a decisions behalf of us. So machines can able to make a predictions behalf of us. Okay, so let's say I will throw a simple use case on top of it. Let's say we consider that as a human beings, we consume a data in many different patterns, isn't it? We consume data through our visual eyes. We consume a data through our ears, through audio. We consume a data through a smell. I mean, we can smell the things, right? Right, we can smell a biryani, right? We know it's a biryani. That's awesome. So that's a data. So then we can able to sense the things by touching the things. I mean, a lot of different ways. Similarly, a machine can consume a data in many different ways. So let's consider a very simple form of data. Let's say it's a CSV file. You know what is a CSV file? It can be Excel sheet, it can be a document, anything. So let's consider that we do have the CSV file. We have some kind of a data in it. What do you mean by some kind of a data? Let's say this data in this particular CSV file, let's say I have around 30,000 data points. I mean 30,000 rows. I mean this data is around 3 years old data. Let's say this data is nothing but, let's say I put out some sensors in your home. I collected the electricity data from your home. I mean I collected how much voltage, the current, the bills that you might have paid for the last 3 years, right? I have collected all this data, the historical data of your electricity consumption pattern. So my goal is pretty much simple. I want to take this data, I want to teach this data to a machine. A machine can be a server, it can be a PC, edge devices, anything. So what happens here, the machine tries to understand a pattern from the data. It will try to understand you consumer data in summer, how you consume a data in a spring, how do you consume a data in many different seasons. So then it produces something called a machine learning model, which is going to be part of final end product. Okay, so then I'm going to use this ML model as a, which is a final end product, and then I'm going to ask this machine to make a forecast saying that what will be my electricity bills for the next let's say 6 months. It can able to make a forecast saying that it can able to predict what is the bill that I'm going to make, that I'm going to pay for the first month or second month, blah blah blah, or what is a bill that I'm going to make, what I'm going to pay for the next 6th month. So it can able to literally make a forecasting. So this is what exactly what we're calling it as the final end product that you go ahead and get deployed to the production, where you have a final consumers can able to use it, right? At the end of the day, what we call it as AI. So it can be any different use case, any different problem that you're going to solve. It can be the use case that is something related to computer vision, that is anything that you want to do with images and videos. For example, let's say I want to teach the difference between a cat and then a dog. Let's say I will take a bunch of pictures of a cat, and let's say I will take a bunch of pictures of a cat. I will teach the difference between a cat and a dog. So then let's say I put up a camera in front of my device. So whenever the cat or a dog comes and stands in front of my camera, so my machine can able to predict there's a cat in front of your camera. So what we call it as computer vision at the end of the day. So you can able to literally solve various different problems in multiple industries, right? Saying that, so now let's go one step ahead and let's try to understand, so what does it take to create a typical workflow of creating a successful machine learning model. So what is a minimal requirement for creating a successful ML model? Let's have a discussion about that. So saying that, so we consume a data in many different patterns. I mean, we consume a data through eyes, through smelling things, right? Similarly, a machine can consume a data in many different times. Your data can be a picture, it can be a JPEG, your data can be a CSV file, it can be a JSON document, it can be a text file, right? Whatever it is. So at the end of the day, once you have a data, the next step in the process is what we call it as data preparation. So what do you mean by data preparation? It's similar to what we do it in the kitchen. I mean, what we do, right? Are you a chef? Do you love to cook the food? Obviously, what we do, the first step in a workflow, we go to a market, we buy some vegetables, then we come back to home, we start cleaning the vegetables, we remove unnecessary stuff, we started putting some ingredients and masalas, and you prepare your favorite recipe. That's how it works, right? So data preparation, what I'm talking about in AI, data science, right? It works in the same way. So what do you mean by that? Let's say the real-time data that you're going to get from your customers, that comes with a lot of garbages. It will have a lot of missing data, the outliers, whatever we call. So our data engineer, there is someone called data engineer, will be responsible for cleaning and preparing and transforming this data if necessary. That's what exactly we do. So then we go to the next step. We started doing an experiment. So experiment, data science is an experiment. It's an experimentation process. So here we use IDEs like Jupyter Notebooks or VS Code or any kind of an IDE that you like. So what we do here, so there is someone called data scientist. So the goal for a data scientist, he will be responsible for writing a code to train a data to a machine. So what do you mean by that? So here, the goal or a game that we are playing here, ultimately we have a data, we want to take this data and we want to teach this data to a machine. A machine can be your PC, a server, anything. For that, you need to write a Python code, maybe any kind of a code. So where we describe where is your data is coming from, what kind of a machine that you're using. So those kind of things we describe it in a IDE, in a code that we write. So then once we have the right kind of a machine, the right kind of a data, we pick a machine and we start teaching a data to this particular machine. So we have something called training data. We started teaching all the data, and we machine tries to understand the pattern, then it produces a machine learning model, what we're talking about. So then we test this data with something called test data that we have, just to ensure that your machine is properly working, your model is properly working. And let's say you got a best quality ML model. So now what is the next step? Now you need to go ahead and register this ML model to something called what we call it as model registry. So consider that what happens in a software industry. Let's say a software engineer produces a software. It can be a web application, it can be an Android app, or any kind of an app. So what do you think, throughout the life cycle of that particular project, are we going to stick to only one version of your software? Are we going to produce multiple versions of your software? So definitely we will be producing multiple versions of a software, right? So definitely when it comes to the ML use case in AI, so you won't be having just one version of your ML model. Instead of that, you will be producing multiple versions of your ML models. So this is where a model registry comes into the picture. It's a tool that we use to version your ML models. Let's say we do have different versions of ML models. Let's say we do have the latest version of model. Let's say it's a version 3. So now we need to go ahead and we want to deploy this ML model to the production. So then only we can able to create front end applications where client can able to get benefits out of it, right? So this is where when we talk about deployment of your ML model, there are different strategies being followed by different organizations for the deployment. So maybe an industry want to Dockerize their ML model and they want to deploy to the Docker platform. They want to deploy to the Kubernetes infrastructure. So they want to deploy it on top of a cloud platform and a real-time endpoint. They want to deploy it on top of, let's say, maybe a batch prediction, or maybe to the edge devices, or blah blah blah, something like that, right? So consider that in this use case, let's say we are deploying your ML model to the Docker platform and we have deployed it. And let's say now, so now the next step in a workflow, let's say once the model has been got deployed, so the next step, let's say we do have our developers, so they will be using and they will be building a client side application. They will be building an Android app or a web app, so whatever it is, so where they can able to use this the front end applications to invoke an ML models that is deployed to the production. So that's a minimum requirement. What you're trying to check it out here, the minimum requirement of building a successful ML model into the production. But there are a lot of things goes into it. Let's have a discussion in detail right now. So we do understand what is machine learning is all about. It's all about the study of an algorithm and mathematical models. Basically, we teach mathematics to your machine. A machine tries to understand the complex mathematical models, then machine tries to make a predictions and decisions out of it, basically. And we do have our data scientists and data engineers. They will be writing a lot of Python code at different programming languages they will be using to build these ML models. But the one question still remains same. So what is really ML ops is all about? That's why we are here to understand what is really ML ops, where ML ops comes into the picture in AI industry, in the process of building ML models and deployment. Let's try to understand that. So before we understanding this, first we need to understand the current state of machine learning. So this is where you'll get some clarity of what's really happening in every organizations today in this world. So this is a data that we collected from AWS AI Conclave that we have attended last year in Bangalore. So let's try to understand what AWS mentions, what every organizations today they are doing in terms of AI. Okay, so consider that you might be a data scientist, you might be a data engineer, someone who is already in the AI domain. But let's try to understand what's the facts. So in order to understand the current state of machine learning, let's say we want to go ahead 1 decade ago. So let's go for last 10 years ago, and let's try to understand what's really happening at that particular time. So at that particular time, every organization has a lot of data sitting in their organizations, but they're doing nothing with the data. So this is a time where organizations started hiring someone called data scientists and data engineers who could able to build an ML models for them. So what I'm trying to mention here, so the focus for every organizations at that particular point of time is just to build ML models, but operationalizing that ML models is not at all a plan. Okay, so no one is making their models to production. As simple as that. They're just building a model, they're prototyping. And let's try to understand today what's happening. Maybe the end of 2023 and what just happened in 2023, right? So are we talking about AI more today, or are we talking AI more last 1 year ago. So consider that maybe end of 2022, that's the time the world has been introduced with a chat GPT. You know that chat GPT got released at end of 2022. That's the time the world is talking about large language models or AI tools like chat GPT. But why didn't ChatGPT got released last 2 years ago, or why didn't ChatGPT came to the market last 10 years ago? Why it's happening today, right? So that's what exactly I'm talking about, the current state of machine learning. So every organizations is just building models, but they're not productionizing their models, right? They're not getting into the clients. And today what's happening, every organizations are getting their models to the production. Somewhere they're reaching their customers. So what makes their organization reaching their models to production? This is where MLOps comes into picture. See, MLOps, what we're talking about, it's all about automation that we build to deliver your models to production. And let's say 53% of organizations today, they're already started moving their POCs to production. I mean, it's taken an average of 9 months for every organizations to do that. And we are talking about end of 2024. I'm talking about not next 5 years. I'm talking about this year. End of this year, it is expected that 75% of organizations will shift their models which they are prototyping to the production. That means there's a more automation that is needed. That means the more skilled peoples in MLOps that is needed in a market which where you can able to help these organizations to move their models to production. But still the question remains same. What is really MLOps? Let's try to dive into that. MLOps stands for machine learning operations. As I described, it's a practice of collaboration and communication between various different stakeholders who are part of building ML models. What do you mean by that? Who is part of building ML models? I'm thinking it's a data scientist and operational persons. No, definitely not. There are various different stakeholders who is part of building ML models. It can be a data scientist and operational professionals, but consider that we will start our journey from data engineers. Yes, there are data engineers. Someone builds data pipelines to harvest the data. There is a data analyst. There are data scientists who is responsible for taking a data from data engineers and building an ML models. And there is someone called ML engineers who is responsible for taking a models from data scientists and go ahead and deploy it to the production. And we do have someone called MLOps engineers, someone who is building these pipelines, taking care of deployment of this infrastructures, all this stuff. Okay, so as we discussed, MLOps is all about building an automation to deliver your models to production. So by applying these automation practices, you can able to increase the quality and simplify the management process of how you build, train and deliver your models to production. So it's all about automation to deliver your machine learning models or deep learning models to the large scale production environment. At the end of the day, this is what exactly the MLOps stands for. And let's try to understand the MLOps motivation in a high level. As I mentioned, MLOps is a discipline that sits intersection between various different domains. Let's consider that it's an intersection of machine learning, DevOps, and data engineering. So what we get is MLOps basically. So let's say this intersection of these practices, when they are coming together, it really drives a value in how we build, deliver, and manage your machine learning models in production. See, as we know, MLOps is an automation to deliver your models to production. So it cannot be just done without, let's say, when you have a discipline that is enabled by the core set of practices, like once you have people, technology, and process together, then only you can able to make these things happen basically. So now let us dive into the challenges of implementing this MLOps. Okay, let's try to understand the challenges that we do have. So definitely we do understand that. So consider that building let's say a successful machine learning model definitely involves a lot of different expertise here. So I mean, the process of creating and managing your machine learning workflows, let's say we will be diving into a lot of different challenges, like the challenges that we know that traditionally, that is data preparation, model training, and model development. We do have various different challenges that we do have here. So I mean, not only we do have this steps, I'm talking about data preparation, model training, and model development. So there are a lot of things goes inside it. Basically, we want to stitch these things together. We want our data preparation steps has to talk to our model training step, or model training step has to talk to our model deployment step. So let's try to understand these things in detail. So let's try to dive deep into each and every concepts here. So let's get started with, let's say, the data preparation. So what do you think we will be doing in a data preparation step? So in your data preparation step, you might contain one to many tasks. Let's say we will be taking a raw data that you get from your customers, eventually transforming that into, let's say, the training data set, test data set or validation data set. Okay, so then let's go to our model training step. So what do you think we'll be doing in a model training step? So this is where we actually train our ML models. Definitely, there is no doubt about it. But in this particular step, you might have some additional steps inside in your model training. So whether you're doing a single model training or you might be doing hyperparameter optimization. So what do you mean by that? So definitely you cannot get the best quality ML model most of the time in a one single shot of a training. So this is where our data scientist will be doing something called experimentation. He will be keep on optimizing and hyperparameters until he gets the best quality of an ML model. Perfect. So then we will go to the model deployment step. Let's consider that you do have a best quality of an ML model right now. What happens next? Yeah, let's go ahead and deploy the model to production, so we can make an application and we can get a value out of it, right? Yeah, it's not as simple as that, but let's try to understand this. So when it comes to your model deployment step, you can have only one step in your workflow, or you can have a multiple task underneath it. For example, let's say once you have a best quality of an ML model, we just don't go ahead and deploy to the production. Instead of that, you might have a multiple different stages in the process of your deploying your ML models. So consider that you might have a stage, maybe a staging environment, and you might have something called a production environment. So initially what we will be doing, so we'll be deploying our, let's say we do have multiple versions of ML models. Let's say you do have the latest version of ML model. Let's consider some version number 2. So first we deploy our ML model to the staging environment, and this staging environment is not accessible to your clients. It is only for your internal team. That means, let's say you have a data scientist, maybe you have a senior data scientist or data scientist, anyone who is responsible. Once you deploy the latest version of a model to the staging environment, so they go ahead and do further testing. So they check the latest version of a model is performing really good. Is that satisfying all their requirements? And if it is really good, if they are satisfied with the results, so then only you'll be deploying the same version of an ML model to the production. So once your model goes to the production, then only your clients comes into the picture. So then only your clients can able to start using the latest version of a model that you're deployed. So even though, let's say you have a different stages, but you will be having a more control over these stages. For example, you don't want to automatically deploy these models to production. Instead of that, you want to manually approve these models to get into the production. So what do you mean by that? So you might be having a manual approval button. So consider that if you want to go ahead and deploy this ML model to the staging environment or to production environment, so you will be clicking on an approval button in order to go ahead and deploy this model to staging. Let's say whoever the stakeholder is responsible for that. Let's say I might ask my senior data scientist to approve this ML model. He comes to the portal and he will be hitting this button called approval button to go ahead and deploy this model to staging and followed by to the production basically. So there are a lot of different steps. There are a lot of different dependencies has to work together to ultimately build this and build out something that provides, let's say, iteration across the life cycle, and also to provide an end-to-end traceability to track the models that you have trained in a model development environment. So whether the kind of a model that you're trained, whether you're deploying it to the staging environment, whether you're deploying to the production environment, has to be monitored. I mean, here you need to monitor the complete infrastructure that you have built so far. Okay, so let's try to understand the one more concept. Let's say when we talk about MLOps, definitely you might have also heard about some of the term that we regularly use in the software industry, which is called DevOps, isn't it? Yes. So obviously DevOps is so again, it's a term that you might have regularly used in the software industry. So DevOps is an automation practice again, which is used in the software industry to deliver your software to the production or to deliver the newer version of a software to production. So yes, DevOps and MLOps, they are not exactly same, they are different, but there are some common things. So let's say challenges in operationalizing your ML models has some common things when we are trying to compare with DevOps. Let's say, for example, the CI/CD practices that we do follow in DevOps, our source and version control practice that we do follow in DevOps is common in MLOps also. This is where the advantage comes to the DevOps engineers also. DevOps engineers can easily transform themselves into MLOps engineering job roles here. Okay, let's say you know that a lot of times this CI/CD tools that we are talking about, they are not necessarily built for machine learning separately. Actually, in reality, what happens, you might use some different combinations of tools and integration. Sometimes there might be a purpose built tool for data preparation. There you might use a purpose built tool for model training and model deployment actually. So you know that this can be complicated and challenging to stitch each and every stages together, and they're more complicated than this. There is no real golden pipeline that you can able to follow. What do you mean by that? So let's say if I'm going to draft an architecture, not every organization can follow the same architecture, because the requirement for technical implementations for your organizations can be different. Your organization structure can be different. Tools you might need to integrate can be different. But what is going to be common, the steps and core concepts that I'm going to recommend is going to remain exactly same throughout the machine learning workflow. Okay, putting together, let's say to understand this MLOps in a very simple way, let's go ahead and discuss a story. Yes, I'm talking about a story. Yes, let me just mention a simple story where you can able to understand the different flavors of tools that we do use in this MLOps actually. Okay, let's go back to 2020. I'm talking about, let's say we are going back to the year 2020. Let's say what we're going to do. There is a data scientist. He's building an ML model for a theater owners. Let's say he's building an ML model for a theater owners to predict how much money he's going to make by selling a tickets. So basically to forecast how much tickets they're going to sell. This is a model he's going to build. But let's consider that it's a year 2020, but the data scientist didn't implement any kind of an automation. There's no much team, so no MLOps at all, right? He has built and trained and deployed an ML model. Everything has been done manually. And this particular data scientist assured a client this model is going to work for next 3 years completely fine. But that didn't happen. The model got failed in next couple of months. The model got completely failed. The client is unhappy. What might have went wrong? So to analyze this particular problem, let's try to understand what just happened in year 2020. That's the time the world has been hit by COVID-19. You know that what happens when the world has been hit by COVID-19, people started gradually stop going for theaters. No one is going for theaters to watching movies. So that means at the end of the day, you know that your customers are your data, and you know that your customer behavior is changing. The people who are going for theaters now, they stop gradually going for theaters. And what happened during COVID situation, we stopped going for theaters completely. And you know that we started watching more movies. But how does it happen? Because of OTTs. Obviously, we locked down in home. We have access to OTTs. A lot of new OTTs born. A lot of new OTTs has been skyrocketed. We started watching more movies. And even after COVID today, you know that there are very small number of people who might have stopped going for theaters, because if we wait for next 15 days, we can watch the same movie in a home, right? So what I'm trying to mention here is, this story somewhere related to MLOps? Definitely yes. Your customers are your data. You couldn't able to monitor your customer behavior through your ML model. That's the reason why your model got failed. What could have been done in case the data scientist could have implemented any model monitoring tools at the production, he could have just came to know that there is a data drift in his model. It's a term that we use to understand the changes in your data. So in case if he could able to recognize there's a changes in data, he could have just grabbed the new data that he has collected till now. He could have been retrained his ML model with a new data that is available. So he could have just got the new behavior of customers in a new model that he has. So he couldn't able to do that. That's a model got been failed. So let's try to understand the another side of a story here. Let's go to the side of a data. We know that we do have three different behaviors of a customer before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. And we do have three different versions of a data. Yes, versioning a data is really important. Tracking and versioning a data in MLOps is really important, because your data will have versions. So this is where we will be using various different tools for versioning a data. For example, there is a very famous tool. It's called DVC, which stands for Data Version Control Tool, that you can able to use it for versioning a data. It's open source. And let's say when we go to the cloud platforms like AWS or Azure or GCP, they have their own tools that you can able to use it for versioning a data. Perfect. Saying that, then comes source code versioning. Let's say we do have a data scientist and we do have a data engineer. Someone writes a lot of Python code. Obviously, the goal for them is to take a data and teach a data to a machine for this purpose. So, and tell me, if you're a data scientist, if you're a data engineer, or maybe if you're a software professional, someone who is going to write a code, tell me how many times the code that you might have written has been changed. No doubt about it, definitely a lot of times. You might not have even a count on that, right? So this is where the source code version control tools comes to the picture. You might have heard about GitHub, isn't it? You might have heard about something called GitHub. Obviously, we are talking about Git-based tools that we're going to use in order to version a code that you have written. It can be infrastructure as a code. It can be the code that you written for the data science, anything. So then what happens? We have a data, we have a code. What is next? We will take this data and the code, we will start teaching the data to a machine. So then we produce the machine learning model. And as I described, this ML model is going to be the final end product, but you're not going to produce just one version of an ML model, because throughout the life cycle of that ML project, you're going to produce the multiple versions of your ML models. So what kind of a tool that we're going to use in order to manage the different versions of your ML model? This is where model registries comes into the picture. There's a very famous open source tool. It's called ML Flow that you can able to use. It's a must-have tool, I would say, for every professionals who's going to be part of AI industry. It's a model registry and experiment tracking tool that you can able to use it for versioning your ML models actually. So followed by that, then you, once you have a version of your ML model, then you take this ML model, then you go ahead and deploy this, integrate that with CI/CD tools, and go ahead and deploy this model to production. As I mentioned, each and every organization, they follow different strategies in deploying this ML models. Maybe I want to go ahead and deploy to the cloud platform, to the real-time endpoint, to the batch prediction, to Dockers. Maybe I want to Dockerize and I want to go ahead and deploy to the Kubernetes infrastructure. Maybe I want to deploy to let's say the maybe to the serverless framework, or maybe to your mobile phones, to edge devices. So the possibilities are endless basically. Okay, so now we understand MLOps is all about automation to deliver your models, not just the models to the production, but there's a lot of things goes into, starting from a data versioning, code versioning your model, CI/CD pipelines, model monitoring tools, and more. Okay, so now you can ask me a question. So tell me, how can we master this MLOps? How can we become a specialist in MLOps? Are you interested? So let's get started without wasting a much of a time. So in order to understand how do we master MLOps, let's first try to understand what are the different components in MLOps. So in the process of building automation, the first thing is you need to have a right kind of a use case. Obviously, if this organization doesn't have an access to data, or if an organization doesn't have a proper infrastructure for the data, there's no meaning of what we're talking about AI or data science or generative AI. There's no meaning of that. So let's say they have a proper use case, the data resources. Then we do have a data engineering step where we build data pipelines. Then we have a machine learning pipelines where our data scientists will be using to perform various different experiments. So once we have an ML model, then we go ahead and deploy this ML model to the production. So then comes the production monitoring. So if I want to split this in a much more detailed way, so let's say the first thing, it starts from a business understanding, use case identification, data understanding, and feasibility study. Let's consider that organization has done with everything. Let's say they have an access to the data, they have done a feasibility study. So this is where a data preparation comes into the picture. That's the things that we discussed initially. So once the data is prepared and cleaned and transformed, then we pick the right kind of an algorithm. Our data scientists will be doing this. So you'll be picking the right kind of an algorithm that you can able to use to train this ML model. So then comes, he will be start training and building and training his ML models. And again, in a one single shot, he cannot produce the best quality of an ML model. That's where he will be doing model experimentation. He will do multiple iterations to get the best quality of an ML model. So once he has got the good model, then we will be started evaluating this ML model. Evaluation is all about generating a metrics that you can able to check and take a decision whether it is the best model. Can I go ahead and deploy it to the production? So now if you decide, then we'll be discussing about the model serving steps, where we decide to go ahead and deploy this model to the production. So now when it comes to the process of deployment, this is where we'll be integrating the automation. So integrating the CI/CD pipelines for continuous integration and continuous deployment, and for the operation purpose. So once it comes into the operation purpose, this is where we'll be using the model monitoring tools in order to monitor not just an ML model that you have deployed to the production, to monitor the complete infrastructure that you have built. So consider that the infrastructure for a data, the code, for the virtual machines where you use it for training models, CI/CD pipelines, model monitoring tools. So everything to be monitored, and you learn a lessons from it and keep on optimize it. So that's what exactly what we have it in MLOps components. Okay, let's get into the very important slide where you can able to understand what is really MLOps is in end to end. This particular slide explains that for you. Let's get started. Perfect. Let's get started. So today, what's happening? Every organizations, they want to move from building automated ML workflows to they want to incorporate the CI/CD practices in it. So this is the complete end-to-end MLOps pipelines looks like. This is how the architecture looks like. So let's try to understand in another terms. So when we talk about MLOps, we discuss something called maturity level. We mentioned something called maturity level in implementing MLOps. So what do you mean by that? See, not every organization on a day one, they will be implementing complete automation and delivering their models to production. They go step by step. Initially, they will be starting from level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. So level 4 is the highest level of architecture they can able to implement. That means the highest level of automation they can able to implement to deliver their models to production. So what do you mean by the level 4 architecture? So the level 4 is nothing but the complete automated retraining pipelines. What do you mean by that? So everything happens automatically here. Your data preparation, model training, model evaluation, model deployment, and even model monitoring. But again, if there is any drift, again, taking a new data, automatically retraining this entire pipelines, triggering this pipelines to produce another version of your ML model. Okay, let's try to understand what this pipeline actually holds. Okay, so again, we'll be getting started with ML project identification. Let's say that, okay, an organization has a use case, data, everything. The next step in a workflow is to have a proper access to the data. And we do understand that the data will have a versions, and this is where we will be integrating data version control tools. It can be any tool for your requirement for your organization. It can be DVC, it can be data version control tools on Amazon SageMaker, Azure Machine Learning Studio, or Vertex AI and GCP. Doesn't matter. So this is then comes, once we have an access to data, this is where our data preparation step kicks in. And here we'll be having a data engineer or data scientist. They will be writing a lot of source code, a Python code, R, whatever the programming language it is. So, and again, we know that this code will have a versions. This is where we'll be integrating the code version tools like GitHub, something on AWS, we have code commit, Azure repos, or it can be Google Cloud repositories, any different kind of code repositories to version your code. So then comes in a model building step. This is where we take a data, we start teaching this data to a machine actually, right? So then comes, when it comes to model training step, here we will be having a data scientist. He will be also writing a lot of code, and again this code will be also versioned by using our code repositories. So then comes a model training step. So this is a step where we will be taking a data and we'll be teaching this data to a machine. So this is where we'll be integrating a feature stores. What do you mean by feature stores? A feature stores are basically a schema repository. So this is not a database. This is not a database where we're going to get a data. No, so feature stores are schema repositories where we'll be having a schema for these features. What do you mean by that? Let's say I have voltage, current, and bill amounts. Let's say I have power. These are the features I do have. So a feature store is something where I will be having a versions of features I can able to use to fetch the right kind of a data. So consider that together version together with voltage, current, and bill amount, this can be the version 1 of my data, and together voltage, current, bill amounts, and the power, this can be the version 2 of my data. I can use the kind of a schema to fetch the right kind of a data. So this is where the feature store comes into picture. See what happens after you training your ML model. This is where the model artifacts comes in picture. So I mean, once you train your machine with the data, then it produces model artifacts. A model artifacts is an inclusive of your ML model and a lot of other metadata that we produce during the process of training. So then comes, here we have a model artifacts. How are you going to manage your model artifacts, the versions of your ML model? This is where we integrate model registries, tools that we use to version your ML models. One of an example that I mentioned is MLflow, that you can able to use. It's an open source tool. Or when we talk about SageMaker, they have their own model registry. Vertex AI, GCP, they have own model registry. Azure Machine Learning Studio, they have their own model registry that you can able to use it. So then comes, let's say your model registry has different versions. Let's say I have version 2, version 3. Version 3 is the latest build. Now comes the deployment step. Now you take the latest version of your ML model and then you integrate that with the existing CI/CD pipelines that you do have. Then you go ahead and deploy it. Then you start operating it. See what happens after operating. This is where your model monitoring tools comes into picture, where you will keep on monitoring not just your ML models, the complete infrastructure has to be monitored. Just imagine the complete infrastructure that you have built, the infrastructure for data versioning, the CI/CD tools, the code repositories, the feature stores, everything has to be monitored. And there are feedback loops where we have an automated quality gates that you can able to use it for deciding whether you can able to go ahead and deploy this model to production or not. So for example, we do have automated quality before deploying your ML models, where you can able to make a decision. Consider that here always our data scientists will be relying on a metrics to make a decisions to go ahead and deploy these models to production. So what kind of a metrics? Our data science will use different kind of metrics. For example, depends on the use case. It can be classification use case, regression use case. So for example, let's say when we talk about regression, so maybe I will be relying on something called MSE score. MSE score stands for mean square error. Let's say I'm going to stick to this condition. If my MSE score is less than or equal to 7, if this condition satisfies, then only I will be going ahead and registering my ML model to model registry. Or if this condition fails, I don't register my model to model registry at all. So this is where automated quality gate comes into picture to make a decision. And you can also use automated quality gate at the side of data preparation side also, where it can able to help you to uh, prepare and clean a data. You can have a data checkpoints just to ensure that your data is clean and prepared. Can I go ahead for the next step? So this is how the end-to-end MLOps pipelines looks like. So now let's get into the very interesting slide. So you might ask a question right now. So what are the different possible roles are involved in MLOps? Who has to learn MLOps? Is that for data scientists only? Definitely not. It's MLOps is must for every stakeholder who is part of building ML projects. But again, data scientist is not the only person who is responsible for a success. We do have various different stakeholders throughout in this particular journey. There are data engineers, data scientists, big data analysts, DevOps engineers, data ML engineers we call, so DevOps engineers, right? So there are different possible roles. So let's try to dive into this, because developing successful ML project definitely needs varieties of experiences. So here, and again, not every organization might have all these possible roles. Depends on their budgets, how many workforce they need, depends on them, right, at the end of the day. But let's try to understand an MNC purpose, right? So let's consider that yes, we do have a data analyst in a team. So what does data analyst will do? They will be closely working with the product managers and business team, obviously, to drive insights from a user data. So they will be using a range of data visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI. They will be also using other tools like SQL, Excel sheets, all the stuff to get insights out of a data. And again, data analyst will be also playing an important role in building a dashboards and maybe using data visualization tools to monitor your infrastructure and maybe to monitor your ML model that you deploy to the production. And again, we do have data engineers also comes into the picture. So they will be making sure that infrastructure to collect, transform, and pre-process the data, right? So they will be working with tools like big data tools like Hadoop-based tools, Spark, ETL tools, and they'll be also working with data version control tools, feature stores, which I mentioned example. And we know that data scientist is someone who is going to be responsible for building ML models, which is going to be part of final end product. And again, data scientists will be also working with, let's say, model registries, data version control tools, feature stores, model monitoring tools, and etc. And you might also see a roles like research scientist and applied scientist, but you don't see this kind of roles in all the organizations, especially an organizations who is working on a cutting edge technologies. For example, I can mention Amazon, Meta, Google, for example. So those organizations, they might have these roles. ML engineers, so basically we call it as deployment peoples. So they are responsible for taking a models which is developed by a data scientist and go ahead and deploy it to the production. So, and in MLOps, we don't specifically call as a DevOps engineers. Basically, we call it as ML engineers. Basically, ML engineers are basically otherwise what DevOps engineers are doing today. Then we do have final developers. We can say they are the last piece of a puzzle, arguably one of the most important one. So they will be integrating everything with the main application. Obviously, developers are the one who will be building a client side application wherever clients will be started using what we have done so far, right? So yes, MLOps is not just for data scientists. Any software professionals today, they can able to become an MLOps engineers. We'll discuss that more. We'll give more recommendations for you. Okay, let's try to understand. Obviously, I have provided the different flavors of tools that we do have in industry, but here we go. Let's try to understand even more possible tools that is available in industry. So let's say we are talking about the tools that we have to integrate in the process of building ML pipelines to get your models to production. We do use range of different tools, tools that is needed for data versioning, code versioning, experiment tracking tools, model registries, model monitoring tools. Let's get the good insight on this. Let's say The traditional process of building ML models involves these steps that you're seeing towards the left side of my screen. So taking, collecting, and labeling a data. First, we need to have a data, then you do data exploration. Let's say together, I would say data preparation. Once your data is prepared, then we take this data, start teaching a data to a machine. We call it as model training and model evaluation. So once you have a best quality ML model, we go ahead and deploy to the production. So then you can start making a predictions and decisions from it. In order to build this workflow, in order to build an automation out of it, we use all this range of tools. Okay, let's try to understand the different kind of IDEs that we might use. So please make a note, this is not the only tools that we might use in a market, but there are a range of different tools that are still outside in the market. I have grabbed something for here, a few tools where you can get some good clarity out of it. Okay, so here the range of different IDEs that we might use. Obviously, Jupyter Notebooks is a one, pretty much a famous one that we use always. Yes, you can also use a VS Code, a Spider, PyCharm, different kind of IDEs. VS Code also you can use. Then we have a code version tools, the kind of tools that we use it for versioning your code. One is GitHub, you might have heard about it, but every cloud platform, they have their own tool. For example, AWS has something called Azure. Code commit. Azure has Azure repos. When we talk about GCP, they have Google Cloud repositories which you can able to use it. And for data labeling tools, there are different data labeling tools available in a different cloud platforms that you can able to use it. And let's say for data exploration and data visualization, so where you want to explore and visualize this data, there are different tools. For example, there are SDKs like Python, Matplotlib, Seaborn, which you can able to use it, which our data scientist does use it. And for feature engineering purpose, obviously we definitely heard about sklearn, which is a very famous tool. And let's say if you want to use a low code or a no code tools for this, you can also use tools like feature tools, or Feast can be one of an example. And for building an ML model, what kind of a frameworks, algorithms that you're going to use, like TensorFlow, scikit-learn, for example, or it can be XGBoost, any different kind of ML algorithms that prefers for your use case, you do use it. Okay, for building a quick POC, I'm talking about just building a POC where you want to deploy your ML model for prototyping purpose. Yes, you can use Jupyter Notebooks, or example, Streamlit can be another example. Okay, for model debugging and visualization, so you want to debug and visualize your ML models. So for that, there are different tools. Neptune.ai is there, which is a commercial tool. What do you mean by commercial tool? Is a paid subscription based tools. TensorBoard is there, which is open source. Weights and biases is a again, it's a commercial tool. And hyperparameter tuning, so obviously our data scientist will do multiple iterations to get best ML model. For that, we do use hyperparameter optimization jobs. For that, you can use Keras tuner, or based on the SDKs that is offered in every cloud. Okay, here comes an experiment tracking. Consider that when data scientist is training an ML model, he do multiple iterations. In multiple iterations, there will be different parameters you will be using, and you need to have a right kind of a tool where you can able to compare between all these parameters to take a decision. For that, the very famous tool I would suggest using MLflow is very famous, and Neptune.ai is also there. Weights and biases, TensorBoard is also a good example. And cloud has all their own tools. So for model packing, now you need to pack a model for the deployment purpose. So yes, you can use TensorFlow, PyTorch, or maybe MLflow based packing, or PentoML can be another example, ONNX, or Kubeflow. Let's say you're planning to deploy it on Kubernetes infrastructure. For model serving, the places where you can serve your ML model can be a cloud, it can be SageMaker, it can be Azure, it can be GCP, it can be your own premises. They have different tools here. For workflow orchestration, yes, MLOps is all about building a workflows. The first step, getting a data, cleaning a data. Then comes the next step, training your ML model. Next step, evaluation. Then comes registration. Then comes deployment. So to create a workflow, to orchestrate this, there are different types of tools here. Yes, you can also use Apache Airflow. Kubeflow is one of a open source tool that it's a framework that runs on a Kubernetes infrastructure. ZenML is there. Metaflow is from Netflix. There are different frameworks. You can also look for commercial tools like Olahai, which you can able to use it. It's like a subscription tool. And for data versioning, I have named DVC, but apart from DVC, there are different tools. You can also use Git large files from Git, and maybe you can also use commercial tools like Olahai. For model registry, a tool that you can able to use it for versioning your ML models. So for that, MLflow is the best example. When we talk about cloud platform, I already mentioned every cloud has their own model registries that we're going to explore. Then comes for model monitoring. Here we have various different model monitoring tools, like every cloud, AWS, Azure, GCP, they have their own SDKs, which you can able to use it for versioning your so for monitoring your ML models. And you can also use tools like Celdon, Fiddler examples. So for feature stores, as I mentioned, schema repository, every cloud today, they have their own feature stores. Apart from that, you can also use open source feature store, which is a very famous one, is a Feast, that you can also use it. Great. So this is what the different flavors of tools might look like. But consider that tomorrow you're going to work in a senior position in MLOps. For example, any professional who has more than 7 to 8+ years of experience, I would suggest you can look for a senior positions in MLOps, like MLOps lead, MLOps architect, and specialist kind of roles. So if you ask a question, who gets to decide the kind of a tool that we're going to use it in an organization, especially the people who are in leadership positions? Let's try to understand how do you pick the right kind of a tool for your organization, the key features of MLOps tools here. So the first thing, yes, there are open source tools and there are closed source tools here. Sorry about that. So definitely we do understand open source tools are always free and they're easily integratable to your MLOps tools. But the only difficult part is if you have your team with a few developers who have a knowledge on that, then can be the difficulties actually. So, and then comes the platform versus specific tool. Do you want to go for platform based tools or specific tools? What I'm talking about, do you want to go for the commercial tools? Like commercial tools are like, okay, the third party players, you can pay a subscription, monthly subscription. They got everything for you in a one single platform for delivering your ML models. Or you want to go for the cloud platform, a pay as you go service for you to have a more control on that. So then comes model and production environment monitoring. So as I mentioned, not just monitoring your ML models is important, you need to monitor the complete infrastructure that you have built for MLOps. So where your bugs are documented and addressed in a specific time. So then comes your MLOps team could able to catch security and compliance concern and addressing those capabilities in those tools. Very importantly, model templating and cataloging capacity. So consider that you might be a data scientist or you might be a professional that you're going to work for in AI industry tomorrow. So, but you're not going to work for only the client. Let's say you might have a client one. You're not just going to work for a one single client. Tomorrow you're going to work for n number of clients, right? For this n number of clients that you're going to work with, you're going to solve various different problems for them. And again, each and every time you don't want to reinvent a wheel again and again. So let's say for a few clients, you might have already built a pipelines, you had a success for that, and you don't want to reinvent a wheel again. Here comes the kind of a tool that you're going to pick should have a capability for templating and cataloging. So where you can able to create a template and you can able to reuse the same existing template again and again to produce the same exact success. By making minimal changes, you can able to use the same exact template again and again. So then comes model training, tuning, and drift management. So does this MLOps tool offers an automation for you to do automated model training, automated data preparation, model training, model evaluation, and deployment of your ML models. So then comes pipeline management. I mean, throughout this workflow, let's say there are different stakeholders who are part of the journey. There are data engineers, there are data scientists, there are ML engineers, there are MLOps professionals. So each and every person will have a different responsibility. Let's say now there's a data model training process is happening. Let's say for some reason the model training has been failed and we have to intimate a data scientist, we have to report and we have to send alert to data scientist saying that the job has been failed. So we need to have such kind of a pipeline management capabilities and kind of a tool that you're going to pick. And the most important one is collaboration and communication capabilities, because MLOps is all about that. Make sure that you could able to document your commands, the questions, and let's say you can able to integrate your pipelines with tools like Slack, or maybe integrating with project management tools like Jira, for example, right? So that can be another stuff. Okay, let's dive into the next step. So let's try to understand what cloud offers in terms of MLOps. So here we're going to talk about three leading cloud platforms. Yes, AWS, Azure, and GCP. Why only three? There are a lot of other clouds, right? Definitely, yes. So obviously we know that when it comes to this clouds like AWS, Azure, and GCP, because they occupy the majority share in the market. So most of the machine learning workloads today in a market runs on these three clouds, definitely. So we'll be talking about these three cloud platforms. We'll be covering MLOps and DevOps tools on top of these three cloud platforms. Yes, So these three cloud platforms are covered in this particular program. We do cover AWS, Azure, and GCP for MLOps. We do cover DevOps, MLOps on top of all these cloud platforms, but not limited to the cloud. We'll be also covering open source tools also. Wait a minute, cloud isn't it enough? Why are we going for open source tools? You might ask a question. So, but you know that today world doesn't run on one single cloud itself. I have seen there are organizations who might be running their DevOps pipelines on top of Azure, but they are deploying their models on AWS. I have seen there are organizations who might be using AWS, but still they might be using an open source tools like Docker, Kubernetes, MLflow, Kubeflow, DVC, Zenem, etc., etc. So yes, today the multi-cloud knowledge is definitely must for every person who is going to get into the AI industry. There's no doubt about it. Okay, I can see a lot of questions, folks, in your chat window. I would love to answer all your questions. Okay, make sure you stay till end of this particular program. We can have a peaceful discussion on all these questions that you're going to ask, but please make sure you stay till end of this particular program. Only if you stay till end of this particular program, we already started exploring the world of AI, and you can able to download the free ebooks at end of this particular program only if you stay till end of this program, and you can enjoy the free demo that we have arranged on top of one of a cloud, AWS, where you can also understand that. And we'll be also talking about how does the job opportunities looks like, what does the numbers looks like. Okay, saying that, let's get started with the kind of a tools that we'll be learning in this particular program. Here comes the Git based tools that we'll be exploring. Yes, we'll be covering the various different Git based tools. We'll be understanding Git, how to get started with the GitHub, and we'll be talking about AWS code commit on top of AWS, Azure repos, or Google Cloud repositories. Then comes understanding CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. So what is this CI/CD? First, let's try to understand that. It's CI/CD, what we call it as continuous integration and continuous deployment practices that we use in a traditional software industry to deliver the new software to the production. Let's try to understand how the workflow looks like. So consider that it always starts from a code. Consider that there is a developer, someone is writing a code and he is pushing the code to a code repositories like GitHub. See what happens, it's all about automation. Once this particular code has been pushed to a repository, it has a capability to automatically check if developer has made any changes to the code, and automatically a build process kicks in. So consider that there is a Java application which is being written. What is a final artifact? If you're going to build a Java application, you might get .jar file, an executable file. So this can be the final artifact that you want to produce in this CI/CD. So consider that now automated build process kicks in, and this is where the build process will begin. And once the build process get completed, we notify that build is success. If it is failed, we notify it is failed. So then once your build process is done, then we do a lot of testings. Yes, we do a lot of testing on the kind of a software that you built, and we do also notify if the test is failed or passed. Once your software is ready, then we will take this software for the further deployment to the web server, to the application, to the Android app, wherever you want to deploy it. So let's try to understand this process in a pretty much very simple way. Consider that we do have an e-commerce website. Okay, there are customers who are clicking on this green color button to make a payment. The customers are hitting a pay now button, which is in a green color on your e-commerce website for making a payment. But consider that for somehow we know that the green is not so much attractive, red is attractive. So what our developer is going to make, he's going to edit the source code in his local repository. He's changing the button color from green to red. And where we have a code pipelines that is running on AWS, where we have a CI/CD implementation on AWS, we do have two different branches. Here we are using GitHub for versioning a code, and our developer pushes initially the code to a dev branch, and where once the code is available on a dev branch, automatically our CI/CD pipelines trigger. It will automatically start building your code. Then it produces an artifact. An artifact is final deployment packed code. And now as part of a deployment, now we do have a web server. We have different stages. Initially we don't deploy the changes to the production. First, we deploy those changes to the dev environment, and this dev environment is accessible to only your internal team. So that means your internal team can come and check the functionality of this button. So whether this button is clickable, can I click it, the functionality is working or not. If you are satisfied with that, in the next stage, you'll be going ahead and deploying the same feature to the production. That means now your production is served with your red color button, now your client can start accessing the red color button in a production. That's how it works. So now let us try to understand how does your MLOps pipelines and LLMOps pipelines actually looks like. It follows the same kind of a structure. So the first process, again, let's say you do have a data scientist, a data engineer, whoever is making some changes to the data science code, and you'll be pushing this particular code to a code repository. And the first stage in this particular workflow where feature engineering happens. That means here, this is a place where we will be doing a data pre-processing. So once your data pre-processing step is completed, then we will go to the model training step. So this is where we train your ML model. We do multiple iterations. Then once you figured out the best model, then we do model evaluation. So this is where we calculate the different metrics like MSE score, for example, our RMSE score, our accuracy. There are different metrics will be calculated by our data scientist. And again, we do have something called condition step. So this is what exactly I mentioned it as a quality gate. This is where we have a condition. We pick one of our metrics from this. Let's say I compare with MSE score. If my MSE score is less than or equal to 7, if this condition is satisfied, I assume that is the best model. If this condition satisfied, then only I will be going ahead and registering that model to a model registry. Consider that my model registry already has version 1. Now I'm building version 2. Now if version 2 satisfies this condition, I registers the version 2 to my model registry. Once you have a version 2 of your model available, then comes your build process. Let's say you want to dockerize your ML model, so we dockerize it with our CI/CD tools. Then for the deployment purpose, we go ahead and deploy it on a Docker platform or whatever the environment. Initially, as I mentioned, we deploy our model to the dev environment, not to the production environment directly. So once you have deployed to dev environment, this is where our data scientist, senior data scientist, whoever comes and checks and validates if model is working perfectly fine. If you're really good at that, then we finally go ahead and deploy the same version 2 of your ML model to the production. That's how the workflow works. And now let us try to understand how LLMOps pipelines actually looks like. We are talking about LLMs. What does this LLMs stands for? The large language models. Today, the AI tools that you're talking about, it can be ChatGPT, Llama from Facebook, right? Plum, whatever the large language models that we're talking about. So yes, LLM ops, which stands for large language models operations, they're not different operations. LLM ops is just an extension of ML ops. We do have everything in ML ops. We do have a just few extensions of that. So the orchestration techniques that we do use in ML ops are exactly same. So data preparation and versioning is exactly same, and pipeline design, so where we have a supervised tuning, is exactly similar. But here, let's say creating your own LLM from scratch is a great deal today. Like until unless, let's say you are not funded like let's say OpenAI. OpenAI has been funded by Microsoft, Elon Musk, Google, a lot of different organizations. They can able to build these LLMs by scratch. But today as an organization, until unless you don't have $1 billion fundings, you cannot build these LLMs from scratch. But let's say we're talking about foundation models, the pre-trained LLMs that is available in the market, how to deliver that. Yes, you can hyper-tune your pre-trained LLMs with your own data, and you can able to produce your own artifacts, and then you can able to create the pipelines for deploying these LLMs to the production. So let's consider that you can able to build an automation similar to what we're building in MLOps, where you can able to deploy your LLMs to the production. But the few things that is different than MLOps, so where we have a prompt and predictions and responsible AI comes into the picture. So you know that prompt engineering, what I'm talking about, you need to input the right prompts to get the right output from your LLM, and then comes filtering those results before you getting these results to your clients actually by using responsible AI. What do you mean by that? You know, today LLMs plays very important role, and you know what happened to Google Gemini. You might have heard about Google Gemini. Google Gemini has become a bit of a racist today. So I mean, it is biased, I would say that, instead of racist. You know what happened when the two questions being asked to Gemini, it has produced the biased results. You know what happened? So when Gemini has been asked about Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, versus asking the Prime Minister of Ukraine. So it has given a biased answer, and you know that Indian government has been made a policy today, which is really hard, I would say, for every AI industry in India. So if any LLMs has been deployed in India, they have to get a permission from government. So responsible AI could able to literally solve this particular problem. The responsibility of a responsible AI just to make sure that it filters the result before it giving the actual results to the actual user. It's basically tries to filter the offensive results and rest it will try to provide the best quality results. Okay, saying that in order to build this kind of a pipelines, what kind of a CI/CD tools that we do use? There are various range of CI/CD tools that you can able to use it. So not every organization use the same cloud. As I mentioned, AWS has code pipelines integrated with code commit, code build, and code deploy that you can able to use it. And when it comes to GCP, we do have code build or maybe cloud source repository, the artifact repository, cloud run, and cloud deploy that you can use it. Or when it comes to Azure, we do have Azure DevOps suite offers Azure pipelines, Azure repos, Azure boards, or Azure artifacts and test plans that you can able to use it. Let's say we are talking about open source tools that you want to implement in your organization. So let's say here comes tools like a Docker's Kubernetes. So here understanding how to Dockerize your ML model, how to play with your ML model, or how to understand Kubernetes infrastructure, how to deploy your ML models in a Kubernetes infrastructure, are running a frameworks like Kubeflow on top of Kubernetes infrastructure, are working with any cloud managed Kubernetes infrastructure is really important. So then comes talking about model management tools, the kind of a tools that you can able to use it for, let's say for managing your ML models. For example, MLflow is a pretty much famous tool where you can able to use it for model registry and model experimentation tool, the tools for versioning your data like TVC and Git large files. And we'll be also exploring feature tools. For example, we'll be exploring feature stores on every cloud. SageMaker has its own feature store, Vertex AI, Feast, which is a very famous open source tool, are commercial tools like Tecton or HubSpot or Databricks. So then comes cloud ML services. Consider that. So if you want to build a complete end-to-end MLOps pipelines, so this is where tools like Amazon SageMaker Studio comes into the picture, where it offers you to build end-to-end ML pipelines on top of it. When it comes to GCP, we do use Vertex AI for building end-to-end ML pipelines. Or when it comes to Azure, we might use Azure Machine Learning Studio. Or consider that if you're an organization who's going to use everything open source, you don't want to get into the cloud, here we'll be using a Kubeflow for building complete open source pipelines. Kubeflow is a framework that runs on Kubernetes infrastructure actually. Saying that, model monitoring comes to picture. So monitoring your ML models in a production is really important because post deployment challenges, you need to understand how your data is changing, your model quality, the model performance. So every cloud platform today, they offers an SDK that you can able to use it for monitoring your ML models. You can also use open source tools like Evidently AI to monitor your ML models in a production actually. Saying that, not just a cloud and open source tools, there are a lot of other third party players. I mean, the commercial tools that is outside in the market, like you can use commercial tools like subscription tools like Isgazio, maybe Domino Data Labs, and High, where offers a subscription platform to use end-to-end MLOps pipelines. We'll be also exploring that. Then comes a post-deployment challenges, the challenges in after deploying your ML models to production. We'll be having the challenges related to software engineering and ML engineering, and we do have a different challenges when you're deploying your ML models to edge devices. We'll be also exploring that. Saying that, we've been already waiting for 1 hour 30 minutes just to explore this particular demo. Here comes the time for us to explore integration of everything that I have mentioned right now. We have built a complete live demo on top of AWS where I have complete end-to-end MLOps pipeline that I've built on AWS cloud. So let's go ahead and explore this end-to-end MLOps pipeline that I've built on Amazon SageMaker Studio. Let's have a quick look on top of it, and let me just go to my console right now. Okay, and please make sure you stay till end of this particular program. So only if you stay till end of this particular program, here are the 3 promises. You can able to download the free ebooks of MLOps only if you stay till end of this particular program. And I'm going to show you the same exact architecture, how to deploy your models to dev environment, to the production environment. Okay, only if you stay till end of this particular program. And still we have to discuss how does the job opportunities looks like in this MLOps domain or an LLMOps domain. We'll have a discussion about that. Okay, so what you are seeing in my screen is basically the Amazon SageMaker Studio. I'm using a classical studio on top of Amazon SageMaker to build this end-to-end ML pipeline. Okay, so what you're seeing in this particular screen, let's say we'll be getting started with a repository. You know what is repository? Is a place where I will be keeping my code. And here you can see this particular console. I do have a repository as an option. So this is where I have a source code. Here you can see that I do have two different repositories. The first repository where I am having a model building code, the code which is written by my data scientist or data engineer to build my ML model. Then I have my model deployment code, where I have a code for deploying this ML model to production actually. So saying that, this is where my source code is actually coming from. And you can see other sections I do have. The pipeline section, this is where my pipelines are executing. And you can see this experiment section, this is where I will be doing multiple experiments to get the best quality ML model. And here you can see something called model groups. This is called model registry. This is where I will be versioning my ML models, version 1, version 2, version 3, blah, blah, blah. And you can see something called endpoints. This is where my deployed models endpoints will coming from. So then we have general settings. So now let us try to understand this in detail. Let's go to pipeline section. In a pipeline section, I have one pipeline, and if I double click it and if I go to the next portal, here you can able to see that under execution, you can see that I have one execution got successful 2 hours ago, and it took 11 minutes to succeed. You can see this is a table, and my pipeline has executed once. Each and every time when your pipeline is executed, it's going to produce the different versions of ML model. So right now it has produced my first version of your ML model. Let's say it's going to execute again, it's going to produce version 2, it's going to produce version 3 if it is executing thrice. Right now I have executed only once. I have only one version of ML model it might have produced. But let's try to understand what kind of a pipeline that I have built here. Okay, let me just double click it, and if I go to this portal, and here you can see this flow chart. Here we call it as a graph. So what is this graph? So this is what exactly I'm talking about, a workflow or orchestration that I've created to build an ML model. So let's try to understand what is the use case that I'm working here. I have built an ML model to predict an age of this abalone. You know what is this abalone is? In case if you are a seafood lover, I mean, in case if you love non-vegetarian food, you might have heard about this kind of a seafoods. It's called abalone. It's a meat that you can able to eat inside this particular shells. And the age of an abalone is really important, because depends on an age of an abalone, the price is actually decided in the market. So basically we are helping the farmers who grow abalone in these farms to get the age of it. So for that, I have built end-to-end MLOps pipeline and automated end-to-end pipelines which can able to build, train, and deploy your ML models to production automatically. And here is the first workflow. So what do we do in a data preparation? So let's say the first stage in our workflow is prepare abalone data. That means we are preparing an abalone data. This is what exactly the data preparation step I'm talking about. So what do you think we do in a data preparation step? All we do, we take a data, we split the data into training data, validation data, and test data. The game that you're playing is taking a data, cutting the data, and splitting into multiple chunks. So this is what exactly our data scientist and data engineer will be doing. And I have stored all this data into a storage platform called S3 in AWS. It's similar to Google Drive that you have know already. It's a storage platform. And then comes, once the data is available, the next stage in my workflow is training an abalone model. So this is where I will be taking a data and I will be teaching this data to a specific machine in AWS. As part of a training process, here you can able to see that I have produced my ML model. When it comes to AWS, we'll be creating a model called model.tar.gz. So AWS packs a model automatically to tar files. That's how it works. And in my training process, I will be also calculating some of the metrics. You can also check the metrics that I have calculated during the model training process. I have calculated an RMSE score, which stands for root mean square value, which helps my data scientist to decide whether my model training job has been done properly or not. So once my model is available, this model will be again stored in my S3 bucket, which is a storage platform in AWS, which stands for S3. So once my model is available, then I will go to the model evaluation step. As the name represents, this is where I will be evaluating my ML model. What do you mean by evaluation? It's all about extracting a metrics from it, because I want to stick to some numbers to decide whether I can deploy this model to production or not. So for that, I will be calculating various different metrics. It can be MSC score, for example, which we are discussing. So I will be evaluating my MSC score. From it, I will be calculating. So then I will be packing this MSC score into a JSON file. I will be storing it in a S3 bucket. Then comes the final quality gate. If you remember that we discussed a quality gate, which helps me to take a decision. If you remember that, if there's a condition, if my MSC score is less than or equal to 7, then I will go ahead and deploy this model to model registry. So this particular condition will be written in this particular stage actually. So, and you can see the output of this particular stage is true. That means my MSC score is actually lesser than or equal to 7. Let's go ahead and check my registered ML model in the model registry, the final stage. You can check what's the final MSC score looks like. My final MSC score is 4.95, which is actually lesser than or equal to 7. So that's why my model got registered and to my model registry. So this is where you can see that my model got been registered. And now let us go to the next stage, that is our model groups. So model groups that you're seeing in my page, it's called model registry that we discussed, a place where we version our ML models. Let's say if I double click and if I go to my model registry, here we go. Take a look and tell me what you can see in my screen. It says version 1 and pending model approval. You can see that. Consider that our workflow here will be deploying our ML models to 2 different stages. You have ML model, we'll be deploying to the dev stage, our staging environment, and we'll be also deploying our ML model to the production environment. And we don't automatically deploy here. We need to do an approval process to deploy your ML model to the dev or maybe to the staging environment. So here I'm going to back. You can see that it says I have only one version of my ML model. Definitely, yes, it has only one version, and it says it's a pending model approval. You need to approve it to get deployed to the staging environment. So let me just click my version 1 of ML model, and you can see the status is pending. It's waiting for you to go ahead and approve it. So now I'm going to click on this actions button on the top right side. I'm going to hit status update. I'm going to simply click approve, and I can mention some commands. I'm going to simply hit save and update just to save, just to deploy this ML model to my let's say the staging environment. So now you can see that the approval is done. So now this model is getting deployed to my staging environment. So it is not yet deployed to the production. It is deploying to the staging environment. Otherwise we call it as a dev environment. So now let us go ahead and take a look of this deployment process actually. Okay, so now let me just quickly get started. Just give me a sec. So let me just also show you a way I can able to invoke this ML model once it is deployed to the staging environment. Okay, so now let me go to my pipelines, and if I go to endpoint section, you can see there is something called endpoint section. So here you can able to check after few minutes the model that we are trying to deploy to the staging environment will get reflected. So but right now that says no endpoint. It's going to take some time to deploy this ML model to the staging environment. We'll take a look in next few minutes. Meantime, we'll go ahead to the next slide and let's try to discuss the next topic. Yes, here comes the very interesting topic, the MLOps job. So what does the job industry looks like, right? Is this the right time for you to get into the AI industry, or you want to wait for next 5 years? Let's have a discussion about that. Yes. So who will be part of MLOps? Who should learn MLOps? Definitely any folks, putting it in very layman terms, any folks who are going to be part of AI industry in some way, you need to be aware about MLOps. Whether you are a data scientist, data engineer, a data analyst, research applied scientist, are you going to be ML engineer, a DevOps engineer, aspiring MLOps professional, or someone who is trying to learn how to deploy your models to production, are you're going to learn, or if you're interested to learn Docker, Kubernetes, or clouds, or maybe tools like DVC, Feast, or MLflow, are you an individual interested in a data and AI industry, you need to be definitely aware about MLOps. Okay, you're going to ask a question. So Sharath, I'm a data scientist. I'm really expert at building ML models. I can build ML model. I can do data engineering. Why do I need to run MLOps? Definitely because yes, today's data engineers are data scientists. Someone who is into AI industry, they're really good at building ML models. But are you going to keep on building ML models is the question. But whether your industry is not looking for moving your models to production? When you're trying to move your models to production, you need some automation. This is where MLOps comes into the picture. Okay, saying that, so these are the crazy numbers that we do have. So let's say I'm going to talk about an Indian market, folks. Obviously, the US market is really huge. An average salary for someone who is going to have an MLOps skill sets on their resume, really the numbers look really crazy. So, but you can see that according to sixfigure.com in India, an average salary for someone who has an MLOps skill sets on your resume, whether you're a data engineer, ML engineer, whether you want to become an MLOps engineer, an average salary for someone who has a 2 to 3 years of experience will start from 26.6 lakhs per annum, according to the MNC standards, definitely. But let's say once you go for some leadership positions, your pay scale is going to really higher. You can see that 33% of people between 10 to 20 lakhs lab, 42% are in 20 to 30 lakhs lab, but 25% are in 30 to 40 lakhs lab, right? And 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 few people ask me a question, so whether it's the right time to get into the MLOps, or how does the industry is going to look for like for the next 10 years or maybe next 25 years. So yes, the quite good answer is see what exactly the world is talking about today, right? So yes, there are a lot of IT sectors outside. I mean, you can be part of DevOps, you can be a software engineer, you can work in blockchains, you can work in software testing, software cybersecurity professional. There are different options that you do have today in a market. But see, what world is investing so much today is about AI, right? People are talking about AI. A lot of organizations, they want to implement AI in some form, right? So today we are talking about, let's say AI, let's say last 10 years ago, we are not talking about much about operationalizing your ML models to production, but today it's necessary. They want to reach the production, they want to make some money, right? So there's a huge demand for AI professionals. I'm just putting everything in an AI radar. It can be data scientists, it can be MLOps engineers, but when it comes to the automation practice, MLOps is definitely must. And you can see that the job industries are really picking up. And again, especially for the resources for the MLOps engineers can be pretty much lesser today, but tomorrow it's going to be really the highly competitive world for you, right? So what I'm trying to point out, I just want to explain this pretty much in a very simple slide. Try to understand this particular industry, how drone got replaced this choppers and a cameraman completely. I mean, between 2009 and 2019, you know that. So a world is going, I mean, so let's say if there is a news reporter or a movie maker, he want to carry a huge camera in this chopper to make a simple movie shot, or maybe something he has to capture. But this industry had been completely got changed in next 10 years just by these drones. And you know what AI is doing today? AI is growing like anything else. I would just put a line like this. I mean, and the innovation is happening pretty much faster than any other industry, right? So you can see that every week there is a new update in AI. There's a new tool outside in a market. So today we are talking about AI tools like Devin, which can able to make a complete software from scratch, right? Do you think like that's going to replace a software engineer? Maybe I won't say that it's going to completely replace a software engineer, someone who's going to write a code, but it's going to change some form in the industry, definitely, right? So but how can you secure your place in AI industries? This is where we can able to help you. So as I mentioned, so for the long time wait comes to the final answer. So MLOps specialization course that we're talking about, we'll be getting started with our next batch of our MLOps specialization program starting from April 13th. Yes, April 13th we'll be getting started with a new batch, and we do have a new updates in this particular program, the new curriculum. So we have LLMOps also into the picture. I mean, LLMs also been covered, delivering your LLMs into the production also been covered. And again, the more awesome thing about our program, it's a multi-cloud and open source. We say it's a 360-degree view of MLOps. What do you mean by that? We get to cover everything that is needed in this world for you to deliver your ML models to production. As simple as that. We do cover AWS, Azure, GCP, and open source tools like Docker, Kubernetes, MLflow, Kubeflow, ZenML, and other such kind of open source tools. So let's try to discuss about few timing, the dates, all the stuff. We'll be getting started with our live sessions from April 13th. It's an 100% live hands-on session. So what do you mean by that? Let's have a discussion. So, and again, the timing for this particular session, every Saturday, Sunday, starting from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. IST, will be having a live sessions. Otherwise, let's say you are from EST time zone, your timing will be 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Or let's say you are from CET time zone, it's going to be 2:30 p.m. for you to, it's going to start, and 6:30 p.m. And again, we're looking forward somewhere between worst case scenario, we're looking for 10 weekends. Otherwise, you can consider it's a 2.5 months program. Yes, it's a 2.5 months program starting from April 13th. And let's try to understand the program workflow. It's going to be pretty much interesting. Okay, it's not just a session. There are two phases in this particular program. Right now, this is our phase one of our training. So what is this phase one? In a phase one of a training, every weekend, every Saturday, Sunday, we'll be attending a live sessions. So what do you mean by live sessions? In this live sessions, you'll be learning MLOps by building a lot of projects. I mean, it's not a webinar. It is not a seminar. You just come and listen and go. Each and every project that I am building on my screen, parallelly, you'll be replicating on your screen. That's how it's going to work. Saying that every Monday you'll be receiving an access to the recordings of a live session that you attended. And even on weekdays, we do have sessions. We call it as a debugging sessions, but it is optional to attend. So consider that during a live sessions, we'll be building a lot of projects. But let's say you have some bugs, some errors, you couldn't be able to resolve it. You can join the debugging sessions according to your convenience, and we can able to help you to fix the problem. So this debugging sessions are going to be one-on-one. And for your information, I will be a trainer for this MLOps specialization program. It's going to be fun. And now let us get some specifications, the key features of this MLOps specialization program. As we discussed, it's a multi-cloud, you know that, right? We do cover MLOps and DevOps tools on top of all these clouds, AWS, Azure, and GCP and open source tools. So it's a around 80 hours program. There are more than 50 plus hands-on, and there are 10 plus real-time projects. What do you mean by this real-time project? Consider that we discussed about this MLOps maturity level, right? Level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1, and level 0, right? So we'll be building projects throughout all this maturity. We'll be building at least one project in every cloud on level 4 architecture, the level 3 and level 2. So it's going to be more interesting. And most of the time that you're going to spend, 80% of a time that you're going to spend in this particular program will be busy building things actually, right? So we will be discussing about the awesome curriculum that we got. So we do have totally 14 modules in this particular program. It's a robust curriculum, I would say. We'll be discussing this curriculum in next few minutes, only if you stay till end of this particular program. So let's have a quick discussion about the pricing structure that we do have this particular program. So here we go. So we want to make it more convenient for you. So we do have 3 different options for this program, not just a one single pricing structure, 3 different pricing structures. You can able to opt for one that you are really interested in, what kind of a value that you want to get from this particular program. Let's have a quick discussion about the pricing structures that we do have. So here is the first pricing plan that we do have. It's called Advanced Plus plan, which will be costing 49,999, and we do have advanced plan which is costing 43,999, and we do have a basic plan. The base price for this particular program is just starting from 40,999, but we do have more surprises for you only if you stay till the end of this particular program. Okay, you can ask a question, Sharath, why do we have 3 different pricing plans, right? Why can't we just one? Because we made it accordingly. You can get the right value for you, because here comes the phase number 2 of our program. The phase number 1, as I mentioned, is a training. The phase number 2 is the post training, what we are offering for you. Okay, so consider that you're only interested in upskilling yourself. You can go for a basic plan. In a basic plan, you'll get access to the live sessions, you can access the recordings, you can attend the debugging sessions. So, and this is what exactly you get in a basic plan, only upskilling yourself. So which comes around 40,999. But let's say you want to go for the advanced or maybe advanced plus plan, you get some premium support. Most of the working professionals, what we have seen, they either take advanced or maybe advanced plus plan. Let's see what kind of a value you get here. Yes, in all the plans you can attend live sessions, access to recordings and debugging sessions, and the kind of a curriculum that you're going to learn is exactly same. There is no exception in what you're learning, is equal what you're learning whether you take basic, advanced or advanced plus. But once you go for advanced plan, you get some premium support features. The first feature I would say that resume preparation with 6 months of technical job support and bonus reattendance opportunity. So what do you mean by resume preparation and 6 months of technical job support? Here comes the details. Let's say the phase number 1 is training. Everyone will be part of phase number 1. The phase number 2 is post completion of a training, the support. When it comes to the job support, there are 2 categories. I would say that most of the professionals, they want to upskill themselves, they want to go for the better job outside. So here the phase number 2, first we help you in optimizing your resume, because consider that when it comes to the after upskilling yourself into MLOps, there are different job roles that you can be part of. So one is MLOps engineer, you can be a data scientist, you want to be a data engineer. So based on understanding what's your past experience, first we help you bias your resumes accordingly. So then comes in a job support, we do also help you in preparing for an interviews. So what do we do here? So consider that we also help you in optimizing your job portals. Let's say it can be a LinkedIn, it can be your Naukri profile, anything, just to make sure that you get some quality calls. And let's say you got some good quality call, now you want to go ahead and attend an interview. So this is where we play a very important role. We will sit for a discussion before you attending a technical round. We ask you to bring a job description, and we will help you to provide the insights from that job description. We'll help you provide insights. So what kind of a questions they're going to ask you, how are you going to answer that? And let's say you have mentioned some of the projects that we have built it during a program. How are you going to deliver the stories about that particular program? Because this is what the confidence and clarity that you needed to clear any interview, right? Along with that, this 6 months of job support can be also utilized in another way. Maybe you're already working in a job, but you need some support, you need some documentation, some sample code, some consulting. So you can also go for the 6 months of job support. Considering that, there is another feature called bonus reattendance opportunity. It would be very much interesting and useful for the working professionals, because 98%, I would say that 98% of the peoples who take our programs are working professionals. Obviously, we are making a time in a busy work schedule to attend the program, but sometimes what happens, you might miss the program. A few live sessions you might miss, few weekends. See what happens when it comes to bonus reattendance opportunity, you'll get twice the chance to take a program. Consider that you are signed up for April batch. Even after you completing an April batch, you can also retake this particular program on a July batch completely for free without paying any paisa further. So that's what exactly the bonus reattendance opportunity is. So considering that, you don't miss anything from this particular program. So let's go to the one step ahead, which is advanced plus plan. So everything in advance is included. Instead of you getting 6 months support, you get 1 year of support, and you get another feature called instant access to recordings. So that means you don't want to wait for 2.5 months to complete this program, or you don't want to wait for the 1 more month to get started with the live sessions. You'll get instant access to our previous batch recordings once you register for the topmost plan. You can get started with the recordings with the support from us, and parallelly you can start attending the live sessions once the live session comes. So when you want to look out the pricing in USD, this is what the pricing structure looks like. Let's say when it comes to our advanced plan, pricing starts from $749, and your advanced plan starts from just $649, and our basic plan starts from just $599 actually. Okay, here comes the surprise that I'm talking about. So this is the first week actually we are running a campaign actually. So this is the first week, and again, here is a lucky people's. I mean, every first week when we are running a campaign, you get some offers for the first 10 registrations only, but we call it as a free upgradation offer. And the deadline for this free upgradation offer is unfortunately on 25th of March, because this is our second demo session that we're doing, because our first demo session happened on Wednesday. We do have very few limited seats. I would say for this free upgradation, I would say that we do have just 3 seats left as of right now. What is this free upgradation is nothing but, let's say most of the folks are interested to let's say go for advanced or maybe advanced plus plan, as you know that. So let's say you want to go for advanced plan, but advanced plan is costing 43,999, or let's consider that you want to go for the topmost plan, which is nearly costing you 50,000 rupees. But consider that you want to go for an advanced plan, but you don't want to register for advanced plan. So all you need to do, go ahead and register for a basic plan, which is just costing 40,999, but we will be upgrading you to the advanced plan for free. So you can save around 3,000 rupees, because the difference is 3,000 rupees. So it's only for 10 registrations, but it's not 10, it is just for 3 seats less as of right now, because we started a demo last Wednesday. Same thing applies. Let's say you're interested in the topmost plan, the advanced plus, and you want to get started with these live sessions immediately. Go ahead, I mean the recordings immediately, go ahead and register for the advanced plan, which is costing 43,999. And we will be upgrading to the topmost plan, that is advanced plus, for free, and you'll be saving around 6,000 rupees in a registration actually. And why do you think Cytron Technology is the best peoples to where you can able to learn? And again, this is not the first time we are doing this program, and we have been in this domain almost for the decade. And so I would say that it's almost, I would say that around 10th batch or 11th batch that we might be doing. And you can also listen to our testimonials. Don't take my word, just go ahead and listen to our testimonials from our previous batch participants. Our participants does talks for us, so we can able to get some more confidence and clarity of what our participants really talks about particular program, and how does this program help them to step into the AI based industry, and how this program helped them to get the job easily on top of it. Okay, so saying that, let's also quickly discuss about the curriculum that we are offering. So then I will go back and I will show you whether my model deployment has been completed or not. Okay, let me just quickly go ahead and check out the screen. You can see that, yes, what you're seeing in my screen, the model that we are deployed to the staging environment has been successfully deployed. You can see that it says demo 23 March staging. The staging names, we have deployed a model to staging. I will be also quickly going to that, and I will be also helping you to invoke this ML model. We're taking a model and we'll be making some predictions out of it in next few minutes. Before that, let's have a quick look of a curriculum that we do have. I'm going to share this particular PDF anyway for you in next few minutes after having a discussion on this curriculum. Okay. So this is a PDF where you can get everything. Let me just quickly go to the curriculum section. As I mentioned, there are totally 14 modules, including the new update in this particular program. It's no more just an MLOps, it's also about LLMOps. Okay, let's get started. So the first module in this particular program will be covering module number 1, that is, let me just zoom it. So module number 1, introduction to MLOps. This is where we'll be jumping into all the nuance of understanding what is really MLOps is all about, understanding the MLOps challenges, and we'll be talking about the different ops that we do have, talking about DevOps, AI ops, model ops, large language large language model operations, that is LLMOps, and we'll be also talking about FMOps, that is foundation model operations, and also talking about GitOps, which is infrastructure as a code. And here we'll be talking about the CI/CD in production case study. We'll be taking an actual case studies of other organizations and be discussing how they have implemented CI/CD for delivering their models to production. Then comes a module number 2, introduction to ML and MLOps stages. This is where we'll be diving into the different stages like versionings, the different versionings that we do, different testings that we do, and let's say then different CI/CD tools that we do use, reproducibility, deployment, and monitoring. And here we'll be discussing about various MLOps architectures. Like we'll be discussing about the open source tools like Kubeflow, Apache Airflow is there, MLflow, Metaflow, Kedro, ZenML, MLrun, etc. And we'll be also discussing about various different architectures like what AWS offers in terms of MLOps and GCP and Azure. And then we'll be moving on to the module number 3, introduction to Git. This is where you will be learning a Git from scratch, understanding how to work with the Git based commands, how to work with source code repositories, everything hands-on. Then comes module number 4, introduction to CI/CD. This is where we will be teaching you DevOps on every cloud platform. So DevOps for you to become an MLOps engineer, DevOps for MLOps. Basically, we'll be covering the complete DevOps tools on every cloud. We'll be covering DevOps on AWS. We'll be covering all these tools, including one project, DevOps project on top of AWS. We'll be covering all the DevOps tools on top of GCP, one DevOps projects on GCP. We'll be covering the complete DevOps suite with one DevOps project on Azure. Then comes module number 5, Dockers and Kubernetes. Yes, we'll be getting started with Dockers from scratch, understanding how to Dockerize your first ML model, and talking about Kubernetes from scratch, understanding how Kubernetes works, how to deploy a Kubernetes infrastructure. Then comes building and deploying your ML model in a Kubernetes infrastructure actually. Then comes module number 6, Kubernetes deployment strategy. We'll be picking one of a cloud where we'll be also creating the Kubernetes clusters and deploying our models on top of it. So then comes module number 7. In module number 7, introduction to model management. So this is where we'll be diving into data versioning, code versioning, experiment tracking, model registry, and model monitoring. And here we'll be doing various different projects. We do have a projects on top of MLflow. We'll be covering MLflow from scratch and deploying an MLflow infrastructure first. Then comes building, training, and deployment of your ML model through MLflow infrastructure that we have. Then comes module number 8. We do have a separate module for feature stores, understanding feature stores from scratch, talking about various different feature stores that is available in the market like SageMaker feature store, Vertex AI, or maybe Azure. And we'll be picking the very famous feature store that is Feast, which is open source, and we'll be deploying the feature store infrastructure and versioning your features through that. Then comes module number 9, the Cloud ML Service 101. This is where we'll be building the complete end-to-end MLOps pipelines on every cloud, not on one. We'll be covering AWS, Azure, GCP. On AWS, we'll be using Azure SageMaker Studio for building end-to-end MLOps pipelines on top of it. On top of GCP, Google Cloud will be using Vertex AI we'll be building end-to-end MLOps pipelines on top of it. On top of Azure, we'll be using Azure Machine Learning Studio for building end-to-end MLOps pipelines on top of it. Not limited to that, in module number 10, we'll be covering Kubeflow. Kubeflow is very much interesting. Kubeflow is a framework that runs on top of Kubernetes. So Kubeflow is widely used by a lot of organizations. Spotify uses Kubeflow for their pipelines, for example. So we'll be covering Kubeflow from scratch. There are two projects, understanding how to deploy the Kubeflow infrastructure. Then comes building end-to-end ML pipelines on top of the Kubeflow. Then comes the brand new module that we do have, module number 11. Here comes MLOps for LLMs, what we call it as LLMOps. Yes, we do cover LLMOps here. We'll be learning what is LLMs and how do we use MLOps for delivering your large language models to production. So LLMOps topics is also covered here. So we'll be also talking about how to build LLMOps pipelines here also. So then comes module number 12, introduction to model monitoring. Here we'll be talking about various different SDKs the cloud offers in terms of monitoring your ML models, and we'll be picking one of a tool, and we'll be also building an ML model for monitoring your ML models in a production. And then comes module number 13. So here we'll be also talking about commercial tools. The commercial tools are not really important, but we get to cover here. So commercial tools are commercial tools that is outside, a subscription tools that you can use, and we'll be also planning for a demo on top of it, because commercial tools are subscription tools, you cannot afford that. Then comes module number 14, the final module, the post-deployment challenges. Here we'll be talking about the various different challenges after you're deploying a model latency challenges, model loading challenges, right? So we'll be talking about ML related challenges, the software engineering related challenges. And here we'll be also using very famous open source tool called Evidently AI to also to do model monitoring on top of the deployed models to the production. So this is about model number 4. And these are the kind of skill sets that you're going to gain from this particular program. As I mentioned, it's a 360-degree view of MLOps. Whether an organization is looking for AWS, whether an organization is looking for Azure, or with open source tools, doesn't matter, because you do have a skill set to work for that organization. So these are the different skills that you're going to master. You can able to check it out. These are the different tools that we'll be learning from this particular program, starting from AWS-based tools, Azure, GCP, open source, and other open source tools, and large language models, and FMOps and LLMOps also. So you can also find the pricing structures here. You can also find the pricing in USD, and you can also get the detailed description of each and every features. And more importantly, you can also check the testimonials of our previous batch participants, where you can get some better clarity and confidence of what you're going to get from this particular program. Because I would hardly recommend you to check the testimonials, because you can get better confidence and clarity before you go ahead and registering for this particular programs actually. Okay, saying that, let me just quickly share you the links in a chat window, so where you can able to start proceeding for the registration. Again, we do have those offers that I'm discussing about, the free upgradation offer running till 25th of this month, I mean till Monday, so where you get a chance to register for our particular program. So yeah, I'm going to share a links in this particular program. There are 3 links that I've shared in a chat window. So the first link for a registration, the second link where you can able to download the same curriculum that I've shared in a chat that I've displayed right now, and the third link where you can able to download the free ebooks as I promised. Okay, so once you click the link, the first link that I shared it in a chat window, so you'll be redirected to this particular registration page. So I mean, this will be where you can get the complete details about this particular program. Scroll down, you can check all the 14 modules that we cover, all the curriculum that we do have inside. You can download the curriculum, you can check the tools that we do cover. You can also watch the same demo. I mean, you can watch the demo that we conducted on Wednesday here. Also watch this demo on the same page, maybe tomorrow if you're going to miss it. You can also contact us. You can check. I'm a trainer. I will be part of 2.5 months with you folks to helping your lives to make it better, to getting in the AI industry. And you can check other testimonials. If you scroll down, you can check all our participants' testimonials to get some better clarity. You can go ahead and hit register now. Just go ahead and fill the form. For example, let me just mention my name, email address, the phone number, and hit next, and you'll be redirected to the registration page where you can able to pick the different plans. Let's say you're from India, you can pick Indian participants fee, and let's say if you're international participants, you can pick the fee in $, whatever the way that is feasible. You can also click hide, hit a more info button to get the features that you do have. Let's say you're interested in advanced plan. As I mentioned, you'll be upgraded to advanced plus. That's offer. If you're interested in advanced plan, go ahead, register for basic, you get advanced. You register for advanced, you get advanced plus. Let's say you're interested in advanced plan, click on pay now button. Here you can able to pick the different kind of payment options that you're interested in. Just enter your email and phone once again. If you want to also go for the EMI options, yes, got an EMI options on all the credit cards and supportable debit cards. You can also register for that. Yep, go with that. And you can able to make a registration actually. Okay, so now I'm going to also open a session for Q&A. Just ask all your questions. In the meantime, I will be also going to my page. You can unmute your mic. You can also talk to me. And here I'm going to quickly show you how I'm going to invoke this ML model that I deployed to a staging environment. Still, I haven't showed you how to invoke an ML model that is deployed to production. That comes later, only if you stay till end of this. Here is a simple script that I've written. I have deployed my model to staging. I'm going to use this script to invoke an ML model. Invocation is I'm going to pass some test data. Here is my test data. I'm passing to start generating some predictions. I'm going to save it, and it's going to give me the age of my abalone. You can see this, as simple as that. It doesn't take much time. And here the number that you're seeing, it's 9.16. It's an age of an abalone which is being got predicted from the model that I deployed to a staging environment. Okay, I'm going to show you how to deploy an ML model to let's say to the production later. So right now, go ahead and ask your questions. So you can unmute your mic and we can have a talk, and then also have a discussion in a chat window. You can also mention your questions in a chat window. Go ahead, folks. When you're going to ask a question, just mention your name. Yeah, and yeah, please proceed. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Sharat, this is Uday.
Hey, Uday.
One small question. Do you teach Airflow, Apache Airflow?
Yes, Airflow is part of our program. We'll be also covering Airflow, and so we'll be having a two different options here. So one is Apache Airflow versus Kubeflow. We'll be picking one of a tool to do an hands-on. So mostly we'll be planning to do hands-on probably on a Kubeflow. And again, Apache Airflow is pretty much designed for data engineering. And yes, we can also use Apache Airflow for building ML pipelines. We'll be also exploring that.
So do you use any message queues and data pipeline means ML pipelines?
I mean, let's say data pipelines are like, okay, for example, the first step, you need to have a proper access to the data. So first you need to bring in the data to your organizations. For that, we do have a data engineer, someone who builds the data pipelines. You can able to build the workflow by using Apache Airflow for that. So yes, Apache Airflow can be used in your MLOps pipelines for building ML workflows here. So that's a difference basically. And again, which I want to mention, folks, this is a completely an MLOps program. So here we won't be teaching you a data science, because this is not a data science program where you can learn a data science. This is not a Python programming section where you can learn a Python. So we don't teach data engineering or data science or data engineering here. It's purely into MLOps. Anything related to MLOps will be get to covered. So that doesn't mean that we don't build ML models. Yes, we build ML models from scratch. We do data engineering, we do write Python programming, and we do explain each and every line of a code and algorithm method that you do have, because that's, you need an awareness for that. Let's say even if you're a DevOps professional, you don't come with the knowledge of data science. You don't need that, because you don't build ML models. Let's say if you're a DevOps professionals, you can work as MLOps engineer, MLOps lead, architects kind of roles, but you don't build ML models. You need to have an awareness of what exactly your data science is doing. So it's similar to what you're doing in a DevOps industry. Consider that you're a DevOps engineer, but you cannot say that I have no idea what my software engineer is doing. You have an awareness, but you don't write a code. As simple as that. Yeah, I guess, Uday, that answered your question. Thank you so much. So please go ahead and unmute your mic. You can talk to me. You can also mention your questions in a chat window. Here we have Kiran is asking a question. I'm working as a, hey, yeah. May I know who your name? Sorry.
Myself, Ram.
Hey, Ram. Go ahead. This is Sharath. Yeah, go ahead, Ram.
I have a basic knowledge of data science and machine learning model basically. So
good.
I mean, I'm more into DevOps and SRE. So considering this program, how difficulty or even in the real time, right? what kind of a difficulties I may face if I don't have a knowledge into machine learning or
Got
deep
it.
learning concepts.
Perfect. See, like here, let's say you cannot, let's say my recommendation is this for data, for DevOps professionals or SREs, for example. Let's say here you don't want to become a data scientist because that's not your piece of cake. Because you're already good at DevOps, you cannot erase your experience. Okay, I want to go get into the data science. No, that's not what you want. So you need to have this awareness of what exactly the data scientist is doing. So for example, you said you already have some basics of what exactly the data scientist is doing, the data science is all about. That's even the more prerequisites that you do have. So consider that the way how it works. Consider that when you're working as a DevOps professional, you can transform yourself into MLOps engineers, or ML engineers also work, but not into a data science. Because when you want to become a data scientist, that's a different ballgame. So you want to have a in-depth knowledge of Python's statistics and algorithms, all those stuff. But you don't train ML model as a MLOps engineer. You do have a data scientist here, someone who will be responsible for building an ML models. If you have an awareness of what kind of algorithm that he is using, like what kind of metrics that he is relying on, that is an ideology what a DevOps professional is actually needed. So when you're getting to production, so the challenges are pretty much, I would say that instead of challenges, you do have more advantages. Let me tell you what is advantages first. So let's take a data scientist in one bucket, and let's take a DevOps engineers in another bucket. Let's go to a data scientist. A data scientist has no idea of CI/CD. He has no idea of building CI/CD pipelines, source code versioning, the testing. But as a DevOps engineer, are really good at CI/CDs already. You're really good at testing, or maybe source code versioning tools, all those stuff. That's the added advantage for you. But when it comes to the data scientist, he has no idea of CI/CD and all this stuff. He will be learning those things in this particular program. But as a DevOps professional, you will be getting an awareness of how these models are built, and what kind of a metrics that we are relying on, what kind of how does this AI platforms work, like SageMaker, how to use that, how to use Vertex AI. Those kind of skills you will be learning here. So that's a quite of a difference. So what's the difficulties that you have, you'll be learning from this MLOps program. Yeah, actually, that's a RAM. So I guess that's answered your question. So please go ahead, anyone else has a question, unmute your mic.
Hi,
Yeah, hey,
hi, Sharat.
hi, Sharat.
Hi, hi,
I
Sharat.
guess two people are talking. I will just go to one person and I will come to the women she's mentioning. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah,
Hi, Sharat. I'm
someone.
Snigdha here. So I'm
Hi, Snida. Yeah,
Snigdha.
Snida. Hi,
Yeah,
Snida.
I'm a man. Hi, hi, hi. So I'm working as a manual tester right now. So I'm planning to upskill to MLOps. So before that, I need to learn any skills, like any prerequisite skills that I need to be upskilled to learn MLOps.
Okay, great. So even when you are in, let's say, even when you are getting into MLOps, like this is what my recommendation is. Let's see always where you folks want to migrate. Let's say what's the plan for your migration? How does your plan should looks like? Consider that. Let me just take an example of a DevOps professional here. So DevOps professional already coming with a DevOps experience. Always you need to see that when you're getting into the AI domain, is there any way that you can carry forward your experience, your DevOps experience? Yes, you can carry forward when you're getting into MLOps engineer. Similarly, let's say you're coming from a testing engineer, but let's say if you have a dream, okay, you want to become a data scientist, everyone can become a data scientist. You have a dream for that, does works. But for you to become a data scientist is going to take some time, right? So, but let's say, but another way that you need to see that, is there a way that you can able to carry forward your existing testing experience into MLOps? Definitely yes, because you can. I would also recommend you for looking for MLOps engineering roles. There are junior level positions in MLOps engineering. So because as an MLOps engineer, you'll be responsible for building pipelines, and you'll be also responsible for working with senior MLOps engineers. You'll be also working with infrastructure, and you'll be also working with testing. Yes, we do have the same kind of a testing. So apart from software testing, we do have more testings here in MLOps also. Let's say you do unit test, you might do let's say UAT test, whatever it is, but we do have the same kind of a testing. We do A/B testing here. We do model quality testing, model performance testing, model monitoring can be also done by our testing professionals that you do have. You can able to migrate here. Your experience does adds up because you're already coming from a testing domain. So there are testing positions itself in MLOps. So this would be my recommendation for you, Snida.
One more question, Sharad. So for learning MLOps, Kubernetes is required. Like Kubernetes is mandatory to
Definitely.
learn.
So
Okay.
Kubernetes is mandatory when you're getting into MLOps, but you know that we do cover Kubernetes here. Let's say
Yeah.
if you want to take MLOps, you don't want to learn Kubernetes. We are actually covering a Kubernetes in this particular program itself. We do cover Dockers, we do cover Kubernetes, we do cover other such open source tools like MLflow, Kubeflow, and other things. Probably you might have seen the curriculum that we have said. Yes, we do have a specific module for Dockers and Kubernetes. If I believe module number 4, where we do cover Dockers and Kubernetes. Yes, Ninda. I believe I answered your question. Thank you so much. I will go to the next person. Please go ahead. Someone is talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi,
Hi,
Sharad.
Sharad.
Rahim here.
Okay, I know that a lot of people are asking. I'm going to spend a lot of time. Let's go with one by one. I can see someone is talking.
Sure.
Let's go with one person. Yeah.
Yes. So hi, Sharad. Rahim here. So
Hey,
I
Rahim.
come I
Yeah.
come from a background where I am a cloud architect as well as administrator, cloud administrator, and data
Great.
center administrator.
Okay.
And
Okay. Okay.
I don't have any hands-on on Python coding or any DevOps tools. So
Makes sense. Yeah.
how will that how this will help me, and how will be the roadmap? Will
Okay.
this help
See,
me,
like,
or should I learn anything else prior to this on
perfect.
come on
Perfect.
to
See,
ML?
like, even for the cloud architect, what I would suggest, let's say, becoming an MLOps architect. There's some roles called MLOps architect. You can become a MLOps architect. As a cloud architect, you know what you might be doing. Let's say there's a client comes to picture. I want to build an e-commerce business on top of a cloud. I want to build some banking services on a cloud. As a cloud architect, you can able to give an architecture. You can say that, okay, you can use this virtual machine, this. You can make an architecture. You can be able to give a scalable or maybe the cost efficient architecture, right? So the same thing works in MLOps also. There are MLOps architects who will be making sure to decide what kind of resources that I want to use on top of a cloud platform. Maybe consider that on top of AWS, you can use various different strategies to build a pipeline. You can use SageMaker. On top of SageMaker, where you're going to deploy your ML models. Maybe you want to use containers. What kind of a containers? What kind of an endpoint that you're going to create? So basically, this MLOps architects will be responsible for doing this, to get to decide what kind of a tool they will be using. So for that, MLOps can be really mandate. And let me just come to the picture. You said you don't have any DevOps skill sets. That's not a problem, because we get to cover DevOps in this particular program. So, but DevOps, not to become a software, not to work in a software domain like software engineer, something like that. So DevOps that is needed for MLOps will be getting covered. And let's come to this Python issue that you do have. So I agree that you don't have a Python skill set much, but so Python, I would never say that, okay, let's say we'll compare a data scientist with MLOps engineer and MLOps architect. So definitely for a data scientist, you need to have an in-depth knowledge of Python programming. Let's say you need to have in-depth knowledge of statistics, algorithms and all, but that's not a problem with MLOps engineers. But I would never say that no for programming. Definitely having some basics of Python programming will definitely help, but not an expertise like data scientist. But how are we helping for you to gain knowledge in Python? But as I mentioned, in MLOps program, we don't teach Python. This is not a Python programming session. Then how are we helping you? So here comes the additional resources. So here, when we talk about DevOps engineers, sometimes they ask us, okay, I have not a much idea about Python. Is there any resources that we can able to help you with? Yes, we do have other programs. We do have a program called AWS Machine Learning Speciality, where we teach Python. I mean, we help you refresh your Python basics, especially for the people who are going to request saying that, okay, for additional Python resources, we do have a resources where you can able to upskill yourself, and you can also get some Python basics. For those people, we give this additional resources for free. So this is how we help. Rahim. Yeah.
So I can
I
enroll
hope
in
I
this
have.
role as well as the other role which teaches me the Python as well.
If you register for MLOps, and if you're going to request, okay, I need some additional Python resources, you'll get access to that additional Python resources also. But this
Okay.
MLOps program is different, and this Python programs are an additional resources that we give just for your upskilling.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you
great.
so much.
Let's go to the next person. You welcome.
Uh,
Let's go to the next person.
Hi, Sharad.
Question.
Hi, Sharad. So there are few technical questions lined up.
May I know your name?
So
Sorry.
this is Mohan.
Mohan. Yeah. ahead, Mohan.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is the tool we use for data versioning in AWS?
Let's say AWS doesn't have as of right now the inbuilt tool on a SageMaker Studio. For example, let's say when it comes to S3 comes with a data versioning as such. You can also use data versioning on top of S3. That's a default option they provide, and otherwise on top of AWS you can also use DVC, which is open source tool that you can able to use it. So as of right now, we'll be experimenting with DVC. We'll be experimenting with DVC, how we're going to use DVC to version a data. So let's say when we talk, I don't want to get much technical. I'll be keep on discussing for the next few hours. Let's say when we talk about tools like DVC, this can be integrated with any cloud. Let's say you can use S3 to version a data. You can use
Yeah.
blob storage on top of
Yeah, I understood that.
uh,
I just want to understand, is there any tool to do that, even from the
as of right now,
SageMaker point of view?
SageMaker doesn't have any inbuilt tool. Let's say when we talk about Azure, they have their own data platform that you can able to use it to version the data. So similar
Okay.
to that, as of right now, SageMaker doesn't got any tool. You can S3 as a tool for that. S3 as a data versioning option.
So you mean that generic option of S3 versioning, so we need to use
Yes,
that. So
you can also,
understood.
and again, you can also use that, depends on a use case, because you need to do a lot of data versioning managements. Maybe sometimes S3 option might not matter. So for that reason, we might go to a DVC.
Understood.
Yeah,
So when we was discussing about CI/CD flow, so he has shown us a demo, right? So wherein
got
I
it.
didn't see any CI/CD there actually.
I'm going to
So
do that.
how?
I'm going to go with that. Yeah. So here comes. I will be holding this particular question. I'm going to quickly show you the leftover demo, because the demo is not yet over. Because you can see that, folks. The good question what Mohan asked, because he haven't seen any CI/CD for deployment. See, as of right now, you can see that I have deployed my model to the staging environment. For that, there's no CI/CD practices that you have seen. Let me just go to AWS code pipelines. It's called code pipelines on top of AWS, which is a CI/CD tool that we do have. So when it comes to AWS, they offer various different DevOps tools. Code pipelines is one, code commit is one, and the code log is another one. So I will be using a code commit, because code commit is being used on top of this particular pipeline that we have built. Here I have two pipelines, one for building your ML model, another pipeline for deployment of your ML model. So here is a code pipeline. You can check my two pipelines here. Here you can see that one of a pipeline is for model building. So my model building pipeline is successfully executed. That's done. And now you can see that for a model deployment pipeline, you can see this is in progress as such. So now to deploy this model, so right now it says in progress. It is not yet completed. I will go inside this pipeline, and you can see that it is waiting for me. Yes, it is waiting for me because it allow me. And I'm just kidding. It's waiting for someone to go ahead and deploy this model to the production. So let's say this is a pipeline. You can see I have a source where I'm getting a source. Here is my build phase wherein my build is happening. And there's a final deployment staging. So this is where I'm doing some testing, also testing stage. You can see all these test engineers might also collaborate here. So here I might be doing some testing, and you can see that it is actually waiting for my review. I'm going to hit on this review button, similar to what I've done in a previous stage. I'm going to hit approve. Here I can say that okay, all testing is okay, whatever it is. And I will simply go ahead and hit submit. Once I hit submit, what happens? I have approved my model to be deployed to the production. It's going to take another few minutes to go ahead and deploy this model to the production. So you can see that this is my staging. This is my staging is running. If you want to edit this stage, you can also hit this edit button. You can edit it however you want. So now after a few minutes, you can also see that, yeah, here you can see that right now in my studio, demo iPhone 23 March prod is getting creating. It's going to take a few more minutes to get deployed. Okay, that's how it will work. Okay, after a few minutes, I will also show you how to invoke this model. Go ahead. I guess, Mohan, I have answered that question also. Please
Yeah,
let me know if you have
yeah.
any.
So on a overview that is okay, but what are the different steps that CI will have? See, because from a general CI flow, that would differ when we do it with the ML models, right? So what
Exactly.
exactly
So
the act? Yeah,
So it depends on a use case. Consider that, let's say you do, when it comes to AWS, there are two things. One is you'd have a workflow that is running on a SageMaker. So SageMaker, you do have this workflow. Do you remember that graph that I showed you? let's say we'll be using this Python SDK to build this graph. Let's say where we are doing data preparation, model training, and for model deployment. So for this, we'll be using let's say another CI/CD pipeline. So this CI/CD pipeline will be taking care of data preparation, model training,
So
and model
sorry to
deployment.
interrupt
We do
you
have,
here. This
yeah,
won't be a CI/CD, right? This would be the part of data scientist who is doing the things
exactly.
using pipeline. Yeah.
Exactly. So this workflow is not running inside the CI/CD pipeline, but in order to trigger this workflow, we'll be using our CI pipelines. So once we run this trigger, this data science workflow will running on a SageMaker Studio. So once your model is available, let's say you have a first version of a model is available, now we will be using another CI/CD pipeline. Let's say we call it as a deployment CI/CD pipeline, which we take this version 1 of your ML model and we run this pipeline to deploy this ML model to two different stages. One is this staging environment, another one is let's say the production environment. Basically that's how it works. Yeah.
So, but my
Okay.
question is, within the CI,
Yep.
let's say if I speak in general CI flow, basically what we
Yep.
do, we source the code, then we do the scannings. It could be white source scanning and all those things, and
Exactly.
we
Let's say
then
ci ci is all for building. Let's say consider that you might have a CI pipeline. Let's say there is a Python file that you've written. Let's say there is a, you can define all this data science workflow in a single pipeline. I mean, in a Python file. Let's say consider that trine.py file. Let's say you can take this trine.py file, you can start running through this CI tool that you have. So this CI tool will start running this Python code, and this Python code run on any specific machine. So this is the workflow that is defined inside this particular workflow. Okay. Yeah.
so only one step, you mean only one action we do? So running the scripts that we have written for the data model
So
training.
for model training step, you might run this Python file. For model deployment step, you might have multiple stages. So consider that, let's go to this existing pipeline. You can see that here for the model deployment step, I have model building step. So what you might do in a model building step, let's say you have a pickle model. You want to take this pickle model and you want to dockerize this pickle model and you want to deploy it to the, you want to register that to a model registry. You can do it in a build stage. And let's say in a deployment stage, you want to take this dockerized ML model and you want to deploy it to the Docker platform. Before you deploying to the Docker platform, let's say you want to do some testings before you deploy it. You do the testing and then you go ahead and do model approval. So because you don't want to deploy your model directly to the production, you don't know whether it works or not. So for that, you do have another stage called model approval. Then you go ahead and deploy to the production. So these are the various different stages you do have, not so one stage that you do have here.
Okay, so out of CI flow, these are all the stages, you mean? These are all the actions we do.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. That's correct.
okay,
Okay,
understood.
I will come to your
So
next
till
question because a lot of other people are working. So if you don't mind, if you can able to wait for a few more minutes, I'm going to spend maybe even a 2 hours for you. I'm going to explain all those stuff for you. Okay.
sure, sure.
Okay, I will go to the next person right now. Maybe please unmute your mic. You can have a conversation right now. So meantime, I will also start answering the questions in the chat window. So duration of this whole course, live sessions, pre-recorded combination. Yes, let me just explain that. So let's say if we talk about the workflow of this particular program. So this program duration is going to be for 2.5 months, starting from April 13th will be starting. So every Saturday, Sunday we'll be having a live sessions. Every Monday we'll be receiving access to the recordings, and every weekdays we'll be having a debugging sessions. Okay, so the live sessions basically you can consider it's an 80 hours putting together like 2.5 months, and you'll be having this access to the recordings also. Okay, so perfect. Yeah, so then, okay, here we have Pratyush is asking, do we also need to take, okay, do we need to also take an AWS Azure GCP subscriptions for this live labs? Not, I mean, there's no subscription when we talk about the cloud platform. Let's say when we talk about this cloud platform, every cloud platform offers a free trial. Let's say when it comes to AWS or Azure or GCP, they offers free trial. This free trial will be more than enough, not only during live sessions, even after completing the program, you can still use this cloud platforms. You will be creating your own cloud accounts with free trial. Okay, so that's how it's going to work, Pratyush. Please let me know if you anyone else to talk. Unmute your mic. Let's have a conversation, folks. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
going
hi
to.
Shreya, Priyanka this side.
Sorry,
Like
may I know
I,
your name once again, please?
Priyanka.
Priyanka. Hey, Priyanka. Thanks for yeah. Go ahead. Thanks for attending. Ask your question.
So I'm a business analyst and I have like 6+ years of experience. So
Perfect.
will it be suitable for me? Like, will it be preferred for me to move into um, the MLOps
Definitely, yes,
career?
I would say that. So there are different roles that you can look into. So one is definitely I won't suggest, let's say if you're a business analyst, definitely I won't suggest you to look into the data science aspect of it, a data engineering aspect of it. What I want you to focus on the MLOps engineering side. So let's say any software professional today, they can become an MLOps engineer, and a software developer can become that. So there's a possibilities. So yes, I would suggest you to look into the MLOps engineering side. So my question is again, let's say I just don't want to just push you to this particular program. I want to give an insight saying that, okay, let's see, as a business analyst, what kind of a skill sets that you do have. As an analyst, you do analyze the business data, you provide insights to your organization. So you do use range of data visualization tools. You might use Tableau, Power BI. Sometimes a business analyst also use SQL queries to fetch our data and do some analysis, right? So you do also coming from monitoring your business data, analyzing that particular data. So there are roles in MLOps engineering, so where you will be responsible for deployment of your ML model, monitoring those ML models, and where you'll be building a dashboards. So where you bring all the kind of a data from your infrastructure. So consider that you might be having an infrastructure where you might get a data from uh, training. I mean, so for building, training, and deployment and monitoring of your ML models, right? So you get a data for all this infrastructure. You will be having a data during model training jobs. You'll be having a data when you're trying to monitor your ML model that is in a production, basically, right? And moreover that, you will be also learning the production, I mean, deployment of an infrastructure through this particular program also. So definitely a business analyst can be also become an MLOps engineer. But here we'll be learning some of the technical tools also, more technical tools, I would say comparing from Power BI and Tableau. So if we can also see that Power BI is a more technical, even there are a lot of things that you can do in that. Yes, definitely, Priyanka. Again, the same recommendation that I given, if I'm not wrong, I forget about the person, someone who mentioned from DevOps background. So I would give the same recommendations for you here. Priyanka. Yeah, thank you so much. I believe I answered your question. I guess someone else is also talking. Please unmute your mic and let's have a conversation, please.
Hi Sharat, this is Kiran. Currently, I'm
Hey,
working as
Kiran.
a middle. Yeah, hi.
Yeah,
Currently, I'm working as a middleware administrator, and I don't have experience. I don't have knowledge on Python and DevOps as well. But
yeah,
I'm looking for AWS MLOps specialization. May I know
got
which
it.
skills are
So
required to join? Yeah.
yeah, so I believe when you say that middleware administrator, so I mean, so what's your any other apart from middleware administrator, so what kind of your technical skills that you hold, some of the basics of any programming language, let's say may not be just Python. I mean, just talking about any basics, maybe C or something like that. Do you have what's your things looks like in that?
We have knowledge on C language.
That's good. So let's say once you have some good knowledge of programming, so definitely like MLOps engineering can be the best fit for you also. But let's say if you are, let's say we're going to say that if you're a data scientist, otherwise, if you're an existing data scientist, so you can still work as a data scientist plus MLOps engineers. I will talk about that use case later. For you coming from a different background, definitely MLOps engineer can be also your piece of cake. But here, once you're ready to learn some new technical skills here, but not like much prerequisites. Let's say you'll be also, let's say as I mentioned, through additional resources that we provide, you can also upskill yourself into Python basics, because that's why I asked. Let's say if I'm going to say that I have zero programming experience, then understanding Python from a scratch would be difficult. Understanding, okay, you have some C knowledge, then upskilling yourself into Python cannot be the biggest deal. So here, all the tools that we're talking about, starting from, let's say the cloud-based tools to Dockers and Kubernetes, you'll be learning from a scratch. You'll be understanding the workflow of how we build, train, and deploy our ML models, and focusing on the infrastructure and pipeline building side would definitely works for you, Kiran. So for an
Okay.
example, I would like to talk to the use case, because when you folks have some fear of, okay, you're coming from different background, do you think this will work? Will be I'm collecting one of our previous batch testimonials participant. Her name is Dipali. After completing this particular program, she got a job. She got upskilled. In MLOps, and she could able to crack a new job with the combinations of MLOps. I will tell you what's the background looks like. She's not coming from an IT background from you folks. She's actually a mechanical engineer. She worked as a mechanical engineer. She is working as a design engineer. She worked as a design engineer. I mean, you know that. So design, she's using a software like CAD, all this stuff to design mechanical parts. So then she transformed into digital marketing, which is completely different than a previous field. Digital marketing, you know that. So running an ads or something like that. So then she started exploring something in a Python, and she learning something. She started working a very small startup, and she's not you know that when you're working in a very small startup, not getting much, but after she could able to upskill in MLOps, obviously after a couple of months, attended lot of interviews, and she got upskilled right now, and she got a job. And I could also reveal her pay scale. She got a 15 lakhs per annum. But consider that the person like her transforming from a different background and getting into that kind of a position is really a possible today, right? And consider then it could be really possible. People's like Kiran's coming from middleware administrator, and this could be really possible. Coming from testing background, this could be really possible. Because let's say I can talk at testimonials of other people's, because we do have I can talk about the testimonial of a senior data scientist, because that might not help for you, because we do have a senior data scientist who might be taking this particular program. You know what is the average salary for a senior data scientist looks like? It will be somewhere around 30 to 35. So we have peoples like them taking this particular program, and they could able to get an 100% hike from this particular program. That could also happen. But obviously, if you are in a data science domain, you can able to easily crack a job after upskilling in MLOps. But I want to mention a testimonials of people who are coming from a different background. Can they progress in this field? Yes, they can. Yeah, that's, I guess I answered your question, Kiran. Yeah, let me know if anyone else has a question, so I can able to answer that. Go ahead and unmute your mic, and we can have a conversation.
Hey Sharak, Ganesh here.
Hey Ganesh, go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, I think no, because one of the business analysts is already there in the forum, so I'm also business analyst, but no, I have 10 years of experience. I'm into insurance domain, and I don't have any experience into SQL or any BI tools, etc. Because I'm completely a domain functional business analyst. So,
Got
can you any suggestion here?
Okay, so here, Ganesh, as you said, you're not coming, you don't have any usage of a technical tools, let's say like Power BI or maybe any other technical tools that you're talking about.
I'm
So
completely
definitely,
functional. Yes.
okay, got it. See, like, let me just put it in this way. But let's say I want to compare between this. Let's say at the end of the day, you are interested in getting into the AI industry, right? So AI industry has many different roles. One is, let's say when we talk about under AI, let's say we talk about all the different job roles that I'm talking about. So one is this data engineering, let's say otherwise data scientist, ML engineer, then comes MLOps engineer, or maybe some senior positions in ML like MLOps lead. There are roles like MLOps architect, right? MLOps specialist. There are different kind of roles. Let's say which position. Let's say if you're seriously interested in getting into AI industries, there are different possibilities. Let's say you're going to say that, Ganesh, I want to become a data scientist. It's going to definitely take a lot of time, because you cannot become an expert in data science in overnight. So consider that when it comes to data science, you need to have in-depth knowledge on Python statistics algorithm. It's going to definitely take a time comparing with someone who want to become an MLOps engineer. But let's say you don't hold any much technical skills, but yes, after upskilling in this particular program and doing some enough practice, still you can become you can be part of AI industry. But all you need to have is courage and, like, let's say dedication of your time to upskill here. And again, so when we talk about MLOps, it's most let's say when we talk about the tools, it's going to be a tool based, right? It's a tool based work. Let's say the CI/CD tools that we'll be working with, maybe let's say deploying the infrastructure. Consider that as a MLOps engineer, sometimes you want to deploy the infrastructure. So what do you mean by that? Maybe I want to deploy the infrastructure on top of on-premises. I want to deploy the Kubeflow infrastructure. A Kubeflow is a tool that runs on Kubernetes. If you want to deploy the Kubeflow infrastructure, before that you need to deploy the Kubernetes infrastructure. So you'll be learning how to deploy or how to create these clusters of Kubernetes, and maybe deploying a Kubeflow on top of Kubernetes. So those things you'll be learning in this particular program. So but you won't be learning a data science or data engineering, because that is completely out of a scope. But learning the things that we teach in this particular program, definitely you can transform yourself into MLOps. But comparing with another business analyst, Ganesh, that I mentioned, you need to put some extra efforts. That's it. But all I want you to consider this testimonial that I mentioned, Ganesh, like you are not someone who is new to IT, you're already in IT. Comparing with Deepali example that I provided, definitely this can happen, Ganesh.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Sharath. I have one question.
Go ahead. May I know your name? Sorry. Who is this?
My name is Malaysia.
Hey, Malaysian. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the difference between machine learning and AI? Is there any difference?
Okay, so let's say if I want to put it in a pretty much a layman terms, consider that AI is a final end product. So this is how it works. Let's say there are many different terms that we do use, Malaysian. So AI, let's say when we talk about AI is part of both what we're talking about machine learning and data science, basically. So combinations of machine learning and data science where you get the final AI. So you can see that final end products that you're seeing in a market, we call it as AI. Chat GPT, we don't call it as it's a machine learning model or a data science model, right? We call it as an AI, right? So for example, we talk about voice assistants like Google voice assistants or Amazon Alexa. We call it as an AI, right? But we use machine learning and data science to build that. Okay, I believe I answered your question. So please go ahead if anyone else has a question.
Hello.
Okay, I can see a few
This is
in the chat window.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
May I know your name and your question? Yes.
This is Subramaniam from Hyderabad.
Hey, Subramaniam, go ahead. Question.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are talking about automated workflows.
Yep.
Yeah, automated workflow is possible for data pipelines, ML pipeline, and code pipelines.
Exactly.
Once the model is already available, for model training, automated pipeline is possible. But
Yep.
for model tuning and experimentation, some manual intervention is required. There, automation is not totally possible, right?
Possible. That's possible, I would say. I mean, I forget your name. I'm sorry. So let's say that is possible. So today, what happens? Let's say I don't want to get much technical here. So that's correct, because let's say when you're trying to train an ML model, so in a one single shot you cannot, let's say, get a best quality of an ML model. Let's say you are training let's say you're going for a first iteration. In a first iteration, you might use different hyperparameters. See, if you wonder what is this hyperparameters, folks, those are dials and knobs. Let's consider an FM radio. Let's say if you want to access a specific frequency, let's say 93.5 is a FM channel that you want to access, but let's say you started tuning to 93.1, no audio at all, no quality audio, there's a noise. 93.2, not a still. 93.4, you got some noise, but still there are some audio, but still not clear. But once you tune it to 93.5, you have a good audio FM output. So that's what exactly we do it in a model tuning also. In a one iteration, you don't get best quality of an ML model. You use in every iteration, you might go for iteration number 2 till iteration number 10, let's say. You do use different parameters in this iteration to get the best quality of an ML model. Let's consider that somewhere in iteration number 8, you got the best quality of an ML model. You keep this ML model for production, for example. So what he is asking, let's say you do a lot of manual intervention. So you go ahead and do optimize. You mentioned what is this hyperparameters each and every time, but yes, that's correct. But today there are SDKs that is outside. Let's say when we talk about SageMaker in AWS or different cloud platforms, they have automated hyperparameter tuners, which is nothing but you can specify the range parameter. It's called range parameter. You can specify these are the hyperparameter range from 5 to 150 or something like that. So it will take this random hyperparameter, keep on optimize your ML model, and it will produce the bunch of ML models. From that, you can pick the best version of an ML model that you can able to pick. So those things are
You
also
mean
available.
complete automated pipeline is possible for model tuning as well? You mean?
Yes, it's possible. It's possible. Yep. But maybe not for all the use cases. For specific use cases, we can use this automated tuning process, which can able to result some good which can able to progress in the good results for you.
Can we
Okay.
use
Thank you.
AutoML here for this question?
AutoML can be one of the choice, but AutoML is based, let's say it's a kind of a tool. Let's say if you don't have a much idea of the kind of a data, the algorithm that you want to pick, AutoML can able to help you to do the initial stages of you building ML models. But not AutoML can do everything, but a minimal steps it can able to take in care, picking up the right data, the right algorithm, and training an initial versions of your ML models actually. But still AutoMLs are getting grown. I mean, a lot of innovation is happening on top of it. Okay, let me just answer other questions that we do have in a chat window. Anyone else has a question? Unmute your mic and let's have a talk, have a conversation. Okay, what do we need to monitor the whole? Okay, perfect. Let me just see if any questions in the chat window. Okay, here is a Uday is asking a question. I'm a software engineer. Can I switch to MLOps engineer and this suit for me? Definitely yes. Any software engineer can become MLOps engineer. And again, let's say if you're a software developer, let's say you have some skills in developing a code. Let's say you might be a front and back end, you might be a Python programmer. So definitely you have your coding skills. Definitely adds up when you're becoming an MLOps engineer. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to spare a few more minutes. Just let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to share this links once again, folks. The first link is for the registration. The second link where you can download the curriculum. Just click on a link, you can download the curriculum. The third link where you can download the free ebooks actually. Okay, perfect. Okay, I did already ask this question. Singat. Sorry if I'm asking, like he is asking questions. Can a software tester professional can switch to MLOps? Definitely yes. So as I have mentioned previously. Okay, so and don't forget about this offers. Let's say this offers are strictly for first 3 registrations only, because it's not first 10 anymore, because we are already done with a few registrations already. So let's say the free upgradation offer that we're talking about, let's say if you're interested in basic, let's say advanced plan, in advanced plan you'll get access to let's say 6 months of technical job support with resume preparation, and you can retake this particular program again in a July batch. So all you need to do, go ahead and register for a basic plan, which is costing 40,999, but we will be upgrading you to advanced plan. Not 10 registration, it's just a 3 registrations. It might get sold out, and again the deadline is for till 25th of March. We will be availing this offers for you. Or let's say if you're looking for the topmost plan, which is costing 49,999, go ahead and register for advanced plan only, which is costing 43,999. We will be upgrading to the topmost plan, which is costing 49,999. So go ahead and listen to the testimonials of participants. You get some better clarity and confidence of how it is being benefited for them. Don't take my word, listen to the testimonials. So here I'm going to quickly play one for testimonial of your participants. Yep.
So maybe you can just give some idea about what is that company that you applied for, so then we can talk about the ML engineering job role, what they are asked for you.
So I applied for the AML role for artificial/machine learning engineer.
Okay.
So there also cloud part also there. So they require cloud part and Docker. So they asked me a question related to Docker.
Okay.
To Kubernetes. And on basis of AWS, they asked me the full CI/CD pipeline, how it works, and how one question is how we stop CI/CD pipeline. What is the procedure for stopping? Is it possible manually or not? So that type of, or they said me how you deploy. From dev to production, how can you deploy? Such type of question they asked me that interview. So I give all the questions with the help of your teaching on this.
Perfect. I'm really happy for that. Okay, so I'm really happy for that. That's good. So what's the company name that you mentioned?
So SA Technology.
SA Technology. So based out of
In Mumbai.
Mumbai, perfect. So you're also from Mumbai, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
that's good. So now you're asking questions. So now you have a 20 days of time
Yes.
for the joining day. So you're asking, okay, can I able to apply for other job roles like MLOps
Yes.
engineer or something?
Yes.
Definitely. Please do apply. So even if you get a better package, yes, why not, right? So you can also look for the better opportunity. So please go ahead, as you usually do, apply for this jobs and share us a job description if you need any insights on that. I'm very much happy to provide that. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
that's really awesome. And is there any other questions that you need to ask?
Okay, sir.
So purely,
now,
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
now onwards from tomorrow today, I apply based on my.
Hello, Rahul. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so that's why I called you regarding that. Can I call full page on for MLOps?
Yeah. Please proceed. Still we have to cover a few more things on ML.
You can listen to the same testimonial from the PDF that I shared. Click that, I can watch that. So what's the scenario with Rahul? Like, he got a job. I mean, I believe we might have completed around 70 to 80% of curriculum. He started up, I believe he might have advanced plus plan, the topmost plan. He started watching recordings and parallelly attending the live sessions, and he could able to upskill and he could able to crack the job, and he has a lot of waiting time for the joining date, and he's asking, can I guys go ahead and apply for other job roles that is applied? Yeah, that's there. So there are a lot of testimonials like this, and that's how the culture of the teaching will be. And I'm talking about these two phases of training: the phase one, the skill development; the phase two, the post help that you need for you to get into the job. So consider that when we talk about this job support that I'm talking about, it's not just helping you just preparing a resume. So for example, there are participants where we might have done more than 10 plus 15 plus resume decoding sessions when it comes to the 6 months of job support, where I have given an insight saying that what kind of questions you're going to ask, how are you going to face this interview, how are you going to deal with the projects. That's the clarity and confidence that you need. So because today I could able to publish thousands of job descriptions for you, but at the end of the day, you are the one who's going to face an interview and you're the one who's going to get a job. But all will get decided in the 30 minutes, that 30 minutes or 40 minutes of interview that you're going to perform, the way you're going to perform in front of the interviewer. That's lies everything. That's where you need a confidence and clarity. It's really working for the participants. We are trying to concentrate more on that, where you can get a success after your upskilling. So that's going to work. So thank you so much. If you have any more questions, please feel free to unmute your mic and talk to me. I'm going to spare a few more minutes. Hey Mohan, I know that you're going to ask some questions. Please go ahead, Mohan, if you're still available. Yep, let's have a discussion sometime.
Yeah, Sharad. So in the CI flow, we do few testings. As has in the demo has seen that there is a stage which was doing the testing, right? So what kind of
Yep.
testing we do here?
So there are various different testing. So one is, let's say you want to do model load testing. So for example, let's say you want to deploy this ML model on a specific virtual machine, and how long it takes to load, and how long it takes to extract the data from your feature store, and how long it takes to make inferencing. So consider that when you're deploying your ML models on a real-time endpoint, you don't want to wait for a couple of seconds to get a predictions for your model. You lose a customer at that particular time. So how do you ensure that you're getting, let's say, how do you ensure that you could able to get a predictions from your model in a few milliseconds? So how much time it takes, what's the latency? You can do that testings over there, and you can do model performance testing, model health testing over there. So let's say how much how much time it takes. Let's say for one inference, how much CPU capacity it takes, how much memory capacity it takes. You can do A/B testing. Like A/B testing is a concept. Let's say you deploy your ML models on two different environments. Let's say environment A and environment B. Let's say you might deploy your models on a same categories of machines, but let's say GPU based machines. Let's say you're deploying it on a Intel based GPU based machine, or NVIDIA based GPU based machine, but they are same categories of GPUs, and you want to see which GPU really performs better on a model that you perform. So whether it is on a model that you're deployed on environment A, or whether you're deployed it on environment B, which is a winning model. So that's what exactly A/B testing. I don't want to get into the more technicals because in this demo session.
Understand.
So you might do various different testings over there. So A/B testing can be one of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Or you might
So
do responsible AI testing. So I can keep on mentioning that.
understood. So this testing would be the part of CI flow only, right?
Uh, exactly, that's correct. So as part of a CI flow, we'll be doing this testing. As part of a CD flow, we might go ahead and deploy this model to the production.
Understood. So if we go ahead doing this A by B testing, we need to have a test inference for doing it in the CI flow itself, right?
I mean, so let's say A/B testing is a process you deploy models on a two different machines. Consider that here I'm deploying it on a two different virtual machines. Basically, let's say, yes, as you mentioned, let's say you need to have this A/B testing infrastructure. So what happens, every cloud platform today, they have a A/B testing infrastructure. So you can also create an infrastructure by your own, but that's going to be a nightmare for you. So SageMaker has a A/B testing platform, which you can able to pull it and do this testing for you, similar to other cloud platforms.
Okay. So uh, when I register my model within the model registry, there is the end for CI flow. Am I correct?
No, that's not an end for your CI flow. Let's say here in my demo, there are two CI/CD pipelines. The first CI/CD pipelines, what it does, it is responsible for building, training, evaluating, and registering your ML model to model registry. What happens once I run the CI pipeline? It registers. Let's consider this is your model registry. It registers your first version of your model to model registry. When I go to the second CI/CD pipeline, let's say here is my second CI/CD pipeline. It takes the latest version of a model that you're registered to your model registry. Then it go ahead and deploys to the kind of a endpoint that you want to create. So here in the CI/CD, I have done testing also. First, it will do testing. Once the testing is done, then it go ahead and deploys it. So these are the two different CI/CD pipelines that I have done. So CI's the end of CI/CD is not model registry. It can be the deployment also. For the deployment, I use different CI/CD.
Okay, understood. So you mentioned then why do we need to monitor whole infrastructure? So you mentioned somewhere
Mhm.
you said
Yes, it is
it's
necessary that you need to monitor the complete infrastructure that you do have.
okay. So what's the reason behind that?
Okay, that's a good question. So consider that, uh, for example, let's go here. Let's go to this architecture that I mentioned. Okay, let's say, so here, for example, we are talking about model a building pipeline. So model training or model building pipelines. Let's say here, in this particular process, you might be having your data pre-processing workloads. You might have your model training workloads. Let's say this is a pipeline. Let's say you have a orchestration. Let's say first step is data preparation, then comes model training, then comes model evaluation, right? Let's say for some reason your data preparation failed. Okay, so your data preparation failed. How do you, because everything is automated here, you're not in front of a Jupyter notebooks running a data preparation code. So data preparation happens inside your pipeline, but your pipeline got failed. How do you know that your pipeline got failed? Only if you have a model monitoring tools, you will come to know that your pipeline, your data preparation job had failed. And you need some kind of a dashboard or some kind of a metrics where you can go ahead and check your data preparation failed, or you need to have a dashboard where you can monitor this workflow got failed. Otherwise, in another way, you need to send a trigger saying that, let's say if let's say our data engineer is responsible for that, I might send an email trigger saying that this job got failed over there, this particular stage got failed over there. So this can be a one example. And let's say you might have a CI/CD pipelines. Let's say in the CI/CD pipelines, let's say you're dockerizing your ML model. Maybe the dockerization process got failed, but how do you come to know that the dockerization process got failed for you, right? That can be one kind of a monitoring that you need to do. So consider that, and you have deployed your ML model on a virtual machine. And let's say you want to monitor this virtual machine in various different aspects. How many peoples are using, I mean, how many invocations are done per minute? How much CPU being is utilized? How much memory is being utilized? How much network has been utilized? Right? So those things has to be monitored. So not just an ML model, the complete infrastructure. So here I cannot just keep on naming all the thing. I'm just giving a reference of why we monitor everything.
Understood.
Yeah.
So one more basic question. So when you were showing the demo, so you switched to the when we was into the studio and you switched to the Studio Classic to show the demo. So what's the reason behind that?
Okay, so let's say when we talk about Amazon SageMaker Studio, Amazon SageMaker has something called SageMaker Studio Classic, which is a new edition. So every year Amazon has a new update. So let's say before Amazon Studio Classic is called Amazon SageMaker Studio, but now Amazon SageMaker Studio Classic is inside Amazon SageMaker Studio. Yep. Okay, folks. Others, if anyone else has any questions, you can just feel free to mention it in a chat window. Otherwise, feel free to interrupt us so I can able to help you with. Perfect. Mohan, any other questions from your side? Okay, that's awesome. So folks, please let me know if you have any other questions. I'm going to spare one more minute, so then we can wind up a session. So please make sure that this offers are going to expire in the last date getting the free upgradation offer is going to be 25th of March. So go ahead and register faster. If you have any concerns, I would recommend you folks to call me. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to call me to the numbers that I shared. I'm going to share this links once again in a chat window. So we have provided two numbers. You can use this number to call me, get some consulting before you getting started. Have any questions? So you can just call me to the number that I've shared in the chat window. So thank you so much, folks. I believed you might have enjoyed this demo. Please make sure, go ahead and block your seats. And we don't have any more free upgrade after 25th of March. So yeah, give me a call if you have any things further discuss. Call me, text me anytime. Thank you so much. I believe you enjoyed the session, and enjoy your rest of your weekend, and we'll connect back in our live session starting from April 13th. So thank you so much. Enjoy your day. Have fun. Bye, folks.